Hey everyone, before I get started, let me know if you'd like me to make a video on a specific topic. I'll do my best to make it happen. The shinobi world is a place full of mysteries, with ancient jutsu lost to time and the rise and fall of clans. In this alternate timeline, fate intervenes when Naruto Uzumaki stumbles upon an ancient relic tied to a power far older than any ninja could comprehend. The power of the 10 Shadows technique, a secret passed down through generations of shamans in a forgotten era, finds its way into the young boy who already bears the weight of the 9 tails, Kurama. Naruto, after years of being isolated by the villagers of Kanata, never thought that his life would take this turn. In a single moment, the destiny of not only Naruto but the entire ninja world shifts. A fateful discovery. It was a typical day in a Hidden Leaf village. Naruto, still the same hyperactive kid, was pranking the villagers like usual. The laughter of children echoed through the village as Naruto sprinted away from an angry shopkeeper. Despite the scolding, Naruto remained undeterred, his bright blue eyes gleaming with a sense of mischief. Yet, beneath this carefree attitude, Naruto still harbored a sane loneliness he had always felt. He yearned to be acknowledged, to be seen as more than just the host of the 9 tails. His ultimate goal of becoming Hokage seemed distant, as he lacked the strength and skill that many other ninja possessed. But destiny had a different plan for him today. While exploring the forest outskirts of Konoha, his usual hideout after pranks, Naruto stumbled across an ancient shrine. It was old, overgrown with moss, and half buried under the roots of an enormous tree. Despite its decayed appearance, something about it drew Naruto in. The air around the shrine felt heavy, almost oppressive, yet Naruto couldn't resist his curiosity. Inside the shrine, on a stone pedestal, was a scroll. It was unlike any scroll Naruto had ever seen. Its surface was black with intricate designs that seemed to move and shimmer as if alive. The text on the scroll was incomprehensible, written in an ancient script that no modern shinobi would recognize. The scroll pulsed with a strange energy, and Naruto felt an inexplicable urge to touch it. The moment his fingers made contact with the scroll, the air around him grew cold. Shadows danced along the forest floor, and the world seemed to shift. The scroll unfurled on its own, and a surge of dark energy coursed through Naruto's body. His breath caught, and his mind was bombarded with visions of creatures unlike anything he'd ever seen, beings born from shadows themselves. Then came the voice. "Child of 2 fates, do you accept the burden of the 10 shadows?" Naruto didn't understand what was happening. He tried to pull away, but the scroll had anchored itself to his hands. He could feel something inside him shifting like a new force trying to merge with his chakra. The 9 tails stirred within him, growling as if it sensed the danger of this new power. But despite his fear, a part of Naruto was intrigued. This was something new, something powerful. Perhaps this was the key to getting stronger, to earning the respect of the village, to finally becoming Hokage. With a boldness that defied the uncertainty swirling around him, Naruto gritted his teeth and yelled out, "I accept." The world around him exploded in light and darkness. When Naruto woke, he was lying on the ground in front of the shrine. His body felt strange, heavier, but not in a physical sense. His mind was buzzing with new information, unfamiliar instincts. He reached for the scroll, but it was gone, disintegrated into nothingness as if it had never existed. Yet Naruto could feel that something had changed within him. He stood up, walling slightly. His vision was slightly hazy, but as he blinked, a shadow shifted in the corner of his eye. A fox-like creature formed from darkness stood before him, its eyes glowing faintly. Naruto's heart raced as he stared at it. It wasn't Kurama, though the beast seemed to mirror the 9 tails in some ways. This creature was born from shadows, its form shifting and changing, never solid. What are you?" Naruto stammered. In response, the creature tilted its head, its form dissolving and reforming as though it were a living shadow. Without warning, it lunged at him. Naruto's reflexes kicked in, and he tried to dodge, but the creature vanished before it could reach him. His heart was pounding, adrenaline coursing through him, when he heard the voice again. This time, it was more like a whisper in his mind. "The shadows are now yours to command." Naruto stood frozen. What did that mean? Commanding shadows? The creature he saw wasn't real, it was made of darkness. Was it some kind of summoning jutsu? As if in response to his confusion, a surge of chakra welled up inside him, and shadows began to move around his feet. Panicking, Naruto tried to suppress it, but the more he struggled, the more the shadows expanded. Suddenly, one of the shadows took form, stretching upward and taking the shape of a giant bird. It had wings of black smoke and eyes like molten silver. Naruto could barely comprehend what was happening as the bird let out a screech and took flight, hovering above him. He wasn't in control yet, not really. The power of the 10 shadows was like a wild beast inside him, waiting to be tamed. Inside Naruto, the Nine Tails was furious. The new power clashed with Kurama's chakra, causing a tumultuous storm within Naruto's subconscious. For the first time in years, Naruto was forced into the mindscape where Kurama was sealed. The massive fox glared at him from behind the bars of its cage, its teeth bared in anger. "What have you done, brat?" Kurama growled, its voice echoing ominously. "That power, it reeks of something unnatural." Naruto, still shaken by the experience, faced Kurama with more resolve than usual. He didn't fully understand what had happened, but he wasn't about to back down. "Hey, I didn't ask for this." Naruto snapped back. "I just touched some stupid scroll, and now I've got this weird shadow thing following me around." Kurama's eyes narrowed, studying Naruto carefully. "That power, it is ancient. Older than even the Sage of Six Paths. It does not belong in the hands of a fool like you." Naruto was taken aback. Kurama rarely acknowledged his abilities, let alone gave any sort of advice. But there was a deeper concern in the fox's voice, one that Naruto couldn't ignore. "So, what do I do?" Naruto asked, his usual bravado wavering. Kurama huffed, its massive form shifting behind the bars. "You will have to control it. If you don't, it will consume you." Naruto grimaced. He already had enough trouble controlling Kurama's chakra, and now he had to deal with another power trying to overwhelm him? Still, something about the 10 shadows felt different. It wasn't purely malevolent like Kurama's initial chakra had been. It was more neutral. It depended on how he used it. "Fine," Naruto said, determination flooding back into his voice. "I'll figure it out. I'll control it. And then I'll become Hokage with both you and this new power at my side." Kurama let out a low growl, but it wasn't entirely one of disapproval. "You'd better, brat. Otherwise, that shadow will devour us both." Naruto knew that if he wanted to master this new power, he had to train. The 10 shadows technique was unlike any jutsu he had ever encountered. He couldn't simply throw out shadow clones or spam raise nan until it worked. This required finesse, control, and a deeper understanding of the shadows themselves. Over the following days, Naruto kept to himself, sneaking away from Team 7's regular missions to practice summoning the shadow creatures. At first, it was chaotic. He could barely summon one shadow without it spiraling out of control. The creatures were unpredictable. One moment they'd obeyed him, and the next, they'd dissolved into darkness or lash out without warning. He soon discovered that the shadows responded to his emotions. The more focused and calm he was, the easier it became to summon them. But if he was angry or frustrated, the shadows grew wild and uncontrollable. It was a delicate balance, one that required immense patience, something Naruto wasn't known for. During one of his training sessions, Naruto successfully summoned a bird-like creature again. He named it Karasuge for its resemblance to a crow, and after several attempts, he managed to control it enough to make it fly without attacking him. This was just the beginning. The 10 shadows had many more creatures, and Naruto was determined to master them all. But there was a long road ahead. Each creature required a different approach, and Naruto had to figure out how to tap into their unique abilities. It was like solving a puzzle, one that could kill him if he got it wrong. Despite the difficulty, Naruto felt a thrill. This was his chance to become stronger, to protect the people he cared about, and to finally prove himself to the village. The power of the 10 shadows was his to command, but only if he could master it. And so, Naruto Uzumaki's journey with the 10 Shadows technique began, a journey that would take him down a path unlike any he had ever imagined. Naruto had spent several days attempting to control the shadows and their creatures. But no matter how hard he tried, the creatures felt wild, unpredictable. Karasuo, the shadow bird, was the only one he could summon consistently, but even its movements were still shaky at best. With no one to guide him, Naruto was starting to get frustrated. However, Naruto's sudden retreat from the usual Team 7 activities did not go unnoticed. Kakashi Hatake, Naruto's sensei, had become suspicious of his students' unusual behavior. Naruto was known for his loud presence, always boasting about becoming Hokage or challenging Sasuke, but lately, he'd become strangely reserved. Kakashi, curious as ever, decided to follow Naruto on one of his training days. Hidden in the trees, Kakashi observed as Naruto struggled with the shadow creatures. The first thing he noticed was the strange, dark chakra emanating from Naruto. It wasn't the usual entity of the Nine Tails that Kakashi had become familiar with over time, it was something else entirely. Kakashi watched as Naruto summoned a large shadow creature resembling a wolf, but the creature refused to listen to Naruto's commands. It growled and prowled around him, its dark form dissolving in and out of existence. Naruto tried his best to control it, but the wolf snapped and snarled, refusing to obey. "This is getting ridiculous," Naruto shouted in frustration, punching the ground. His fist trembled with pent-up rage, and the shadow wolf reacted to it by lunging forward. Naruto barely had time to roll out of the way, avoiding the creature's snapping jaws. Kakashi frowned. Whatever this power was, it was dangerous. He could see Naruto's frustration growing by the minute, and that was a bad sign. The last thing Kakashi wanted was for Naruto to lose control and hurt himself, or worse, allow the Nine Tails to take over. After watching for a while, Kakashi finally decided to step in. Naruto was panting, his forehead slick with sweat. The shadow wolf had finally dissipated after his chakra reserves dipped low. He was about to sit down and catch his breath when a familiar voice called out from behind him. "You know, brute strength alone won't help you control that," Kakashi said, stepping out from behind the trees. Naruto spun around, startled. "Kakashi-sensei, what are you doing here?" "I could ask you the same thing," Kakashi replied, his visible eye narrowing with concern. "You've been acting strange lately, Naruto. Skidding out on training, disappearing without a word. I figured you were up to something, but this is unexpected." Naruto looked down at the ground, unsure of what to say. He wasn't ready to explain the 10 Shadows technique, mostly because he didn't fully understand it himself. But Kakashi was a skilled ninja, and Naruto trusted him more than anyone. I found this weird scroll in a forest a few days ago," Naruto admitted slowly. "When I touched it, I got this new power, but it's hard to control. These creatures, they are made of shadows, and they don't always listen to me." Kakashi's face remained unreadable as he approached Naruto. "I see. This power, it's different from anything we've seen before. Not like the Nine Tails." Naruto nodded. "Yeah. Kurama's not happy about it either. It's like this power fights with him inside me. But I need to control it. If I can use this power, I'll be stronger than ever. Maybe strong enough to finally become Hokage." Kakashi sighed softly. "Naruto, power isn't just about strength. It's about control. I've seen you struggle with the Nine Tails chakra before, and this feels similar. The more you fight it, the more out of control it will become. But how am I supposed to control it?" Naruto shouted, his frustration boiling over. "I've been trying for days, but nothing works." Kakashi knelt down, bringing himself to Naruto's level. "Think about how you control the Nine Tails chakra, Naruto. It's not about force or willpower. It's about balance. You need to make peace with this new power, just like you learned to work with Kurama." Naruto blinked, a small frown forming on his face. "You mean I have to work with the shadows? But they are not like Kurama." They are wild. They don't care about anything. Everything has a nature, Naruto, Kakashi said softly. Even shadows. You need to understand them, their instincts, before you can command them. Naruto's mind raced as he processed Kakashi's words. Understanding the shadow's nature, that sounded like something easier said than done. But Naruto knew Kakashi was right. He had been fighting the shadows, trying to bend them to his will like they were tools, instead of understanding what they really were. Naruto clenched his fists and stood up, determination filling his eyes. I'll figure it out. I'll figure out their nature, and then I'll control them. Kakashi smiled beneath his mask. Good. I'll help you as much as I can. Over the next few weeks, Naruto dedicated himself to learning the nature of the 10th Shadow's technique. With Kakashi's guidance, he began to approach the shadows differently, not as a source of raw power, but as an extension of his own chakra, his own will. Kakashi explained that every jutsu, every summoning technique, was rooted in understanding the essence of what was summoned. The shadow creatures Naruto could call upon weren't simply beasts made of darkness, they were manifestations of ancient entities, with instincts and wills of their own. Naruto needed to treat them like allies, not tools. He started with Karasuo, the bird-like creature he had summoned earlier. It was the most familiar shadow to him, and so far, the only one he had managed to control for any length of time. Naruto spent hours meditating, attempting to connect with Karasuo on a deeper level, feeling out the creature's instincts through his chakra. At first, the process was slow. Karasuo would dissolve after a few minutes, or it would screech and fly off without warning. But Naruto didn't give up. Slowly, he started to sense a shift in the creature's behavior. It was less erratic, less wild. Karasuo began to respond to Naruto's chakra, and eventually, Naruto could summon the bird without it immediately fleeing or attacking him. I think I'm getting the hang of it, Naruto muttered one day as Karasuo perched calmly on his shoulder. Kakashi, who had been observing, nodded approvingly. You're starting to understand their nature. Good work, Naruto. But this was just the beginning. Naruto knew that Karasuo was only one of the creatures available to him. There were others stronger, more dangerous beings lurking in the shadows of the technique. He had already encountered the wolf-like shadow that nearly attacked him, and from the visions he saw when he first touched the scroll, there were many more. Each of them had their own nature, their own instincts. And each of them would require a different approach. The next creature Naruto focused on was the shadow wolf he had summoned earlier. It was a massive, hulking beast with glowing eyes and a body that shifted between solid and ethereal forms. Unlike Karasuo, the wolf was aggressive, constantly on edge, ready to attack at a moment's notice. Naruto knew this would be a challenge. The wolf wasn't like Karasuo, it wouldn't be tamed through calm meditation alone. The wolf was a predator, and predators respected strength. I think this one's going to be a little more difficult, Naruto muttered as he stood in a clearing, preparing to summon the wolf again. Kakashi stood at a distance, ready to intervene if things got out of hand. Remember, Naruto. It's not about forcing control. You need to understand its instincts. Naruto nodded, but he knew this wouldn't be as easy. He formed the hand seals and focused his chakra, summoning the shadow wolf. The creature appeared in front of him, its dark form riddling with power. It growled low in its throat, its glowing eyes locked on Naruto. Unlike Karasuo, the wolf didn't seem interested in listening. It prowled around him, its muscles tensing as if ready to strike. Naruto stood his ground, refusing to back down. He could feel the wolf's instincts wild, untamed. It was testing him, waiting to see if he was weak, if he would flee. But Naruto wasn't scared. He had faced worse than this. You think you're tough? Naruto growled, meeting the wolf's gaze. Well, so am I. The wolf bared his fangs, and for a moment, Naruto thought it was going to lunge at him. But then, something changed. The creature stopped, its glowing eyes flickering for a moment before it slowly lowered its head in submission. Naruto's eyes widened in surprise. Wait, did I just? Kakashi stepped forward. His eye crinkled in a smile. You didn't force it. You met it on its own terms. Naruto blinked, realization dawning on him. He hadn't tried to control the wolf. He had faced it as an equal, and the wolf had recognized his strength. Slowly, Naruto reached out and placed a hand on the wolf's head. The creature didn't flinch or growl. Instead, it allowed Naruto's touch, its dark body solidifying under his hand. I did it, Naruto whispered, a grin spreading across his face. I really did it. With both Karasu and the wolf now under his control, Naruto felt a surge of confidence. He had learned the first lesson of the 10 Shadows technique, understanding and respecting the nature of each shadow. But this was just the beginning. There were more shadows to master, stronger, more dangerous creatures lurking in the darkness. And Naruto knew that if he wanted to become Hokage, he would need to control them all. But for now, he was ready to take the next step. The road ahead was long, but Naruto Uzumaki had never backed down from a challenge before. With Kakashi's guidance and his newfound understanding of the shadows, Naruto was determined to master the 10 Shadows technique and use it to protect his village, his friends, and one day, the entire shinobi world. In the weeks following his mastery over Karasu and the Shadow Wolf, Naruto's confidence grew. He had learned the delicate balance of working with the shadows, but the further he delved into the 10 Shadows technique, the more he realized how dangerous and vast the power truly was. The shadow creatures were not merely summons, they were sentient beings bound to the user's will, each with its own personality and nature. Mastering them would take more than strength and determination. It would require patience, wisdom, and a deeper understanding of the darkness that now lurked within him. Naruto continued training with Kakashi's guidance, but as his control over the shadows grew, so did the attention of those around him. He couldn't hide the changes anymore, and it wasn't long before Shizuke, Sakura, and even the higher Yukis and Kanata noticed something was different about him. One day, after a particularly grueling training session with a shadow wolf, Naruto was approached by Team 7 on the outskirts of the training grounds. Boy, Naruto? Shizuke called out, his voice sharp with suspicion. What's going on with you lately? You've been disappearing, training on your own, and now you're using some weird jutsu we've never seen before. What are you hiding? Naruto wiped the sweat from his forehead, his mind still buzzing from the strain of controlling the wolf. He could see the concern in Sakura's eyes and a challenge in Shizuke's glare. Yeah, Naruto, Sakura added. You've been acting strange. You can tell us what's going on, you know. Naruto looked away, unsure how to explain it to them. The 10 Shadows technique wasn't something he fully understood yet, and he wasn't ready to reveal its origins, especially not to Shizuke, who would see it as a challenge to his own abilities. It's just a new power I've been training with, Naruto said finally, his voice low. I found it by accident, but I need to master it if I'm going to get stronger. You wouldn't understand. Shizuke's eyes narrowed. Try me. Before Naruto could respond, Kakashi appeared behind them, his expression as unreadable as ever. That's enough, Shizuke. Naruto's training is his own business. Everyone has their own path to strength. Shizuke glared at Kakashi but said nothing, his fists clenched at his sides. Sakura looked between Naruto and Shizuke, her concern growing, but she didn't press the issue further. Naruto felt a pang of guilt. He knew they were worried about him, but this was something he had to figure out on his own. The shadows were becoming more unpredictable, and the deeper he went, the more dangerous they felt. If he couldn't control them, he wouldn't just be a threat to himself, he could endanger the people he cared about. As Naruto's mastery of the shadows grew, so did the weight of the technique. The creatures were bound to his chakra, but their presence began to weigh on him more and more. At night, he could feel their pull whispers in the dark quarters of his mind, like ancient voices calling out to him. Kurama, ever watchful, growled in the back of his consciousness. The Nine-Tails was wary of the shadows, sensing their ancient origins and the threat they posed to his own power. These shadows are not a gift, Kurama warned one night as Naruto meditated, trying to connect with the next shadow creature in the technique. They are a curse. You think you can control them, but they are feeding off your chakra, off our chakra. Naruto opened his eyes, his breath steady. He had learned to ignore Kurama's taunts over the years, but the fox's words carried a deeper weight now. I know they are dangerous, Naruto replied quietly, his voice echoing in a dark mindscape. But I can handle it. I've handled you, haven't I? Kurama let out a low growl. You've barely scratched the surface of what I am. And these shadows, they come from a power older than any shinobi. If you'll lose control, they will consume you and I won't save you. Naruto didn't flinch. He understood the risks, but he wasn't going to back down. If he could master this power, he would be stronger than ever, strong enough to protect the village, to protect his friends, and to achieve his dream of becoming Hokage. I'll control them, Naruto said, his voice firm. I don't care how old or powerful they are. I'll control them. Kurama's eyes glowed in the darkness, but the fox said nothing more. The challenge had been made, and Naruto knew that he had to prove himself not just to Kurama, but to the shadows as well. The time had come for Naruto to summon the next creature in the 10 Shadows technique. He had mastered Karasuo, the shadow bird, and the wolf had submitted to his will after a tense battle of instincts. But the next shadow was different. Nu, the third creature, was a legendary being, a mythical beast with the body of a tiger, the head of a monkey, and the tail of a snake. In the ancient texts, Nu was said to bring disaster wherever it went, its very presence warping the world around it. Summoning it would be a dangerous task, but Naruto knew he had to face it if he wanted to fully unlock the 10 shadows. Standing in the forest clearing, Naruto took a deep breath and began forming the hand seals. His chakra surged, and the shadows around him darkened, swirling like smoke. Kukios, Nu! Naruto shouted, pouring his chakra into the technique. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the ground beneath him trembled, and the air grew heavy with a strange energy. Shadows gathered in the center of the clearing, coalescing into a massive form. Slowly, the creature emerged, a hulking beast with golden eyes, its tiger-like body covered in dark fur, its tail riding like a snake. Nu stood before Naruto, its gaze piercing and ancient. The creature let out a low growl, its muscles tensing as it sized up its new master. Naruto's heart raced, but he stood his ground. He knew what he had to do. He couldn't show fear. Nu, like the wolf, would only respect strength. The creature took a step forward, its massive paws crushing the ground beneath it. Its snake-like tail hissed, and the air around it shimmered with dark energy. All right, Nu, Naruto said, his voice steady. Let's see what you've got. Nu roared, and in an instant, it lunged at Naruto, its jaws wide and claws extended. Naruto barely had time to react, summoning a clone to throw him out of the way. The beast's attack left a deep gouge in the earth where Naruto had stood. Naruto scrambled to his feet, his mind racing. This was different from the wolf. Nu was faster, stronger, and its presence was overwhelming. The air around it was thick with a pressure that made it hard to breathe. Calm down, Naruto muttered to himself, focusing his chakra. He couldn't let Nu's power overwhelm him. He had to control it. Nu charged again, and this time, Naruto was ready. He summoned Karasuo and a shadow wolf simultaneously, sending them to intercept the beast. Karasuo swooped down, its sharp talons aiming for Nu's eyes, while the wolf darted in from the side, teeth bared. But Nu was relentless. It swatted Karasuo away with a single swipe of its paw, sending the bird crashing into the trees. The wolf fared no better. Nu's snake-like tail lashed out, wrapping around the wolf's body and flinging it aside like a ragdoll. Naruto gritted his teeth, frustration building. This wasn't working. He couldn't just rely on brute strength. He had to think. Come on, Naruto, he muttered, trying to steady his breath. You've faced worse than this. You can handle it. Nu turned toward him, its golden eyes glowing with fury. The beast charged once more, but this time, Naruto didn't run. He formed the hand seals again, summoning the shadows around him. The darkness swirled, and just as Nu's claws were about to strike, Naruto vanished into the shadows, reappearing behind the beast. Nu skidded to a halt, confused by the sudden disappearance of its target. Naruto took the opportunity to strike, sending a powerful Rasengan crashing into the beast's side. The impact sent Nu stumbling, its growl turning into a roar of pain. But it wasn't enough. Nu shook off the attack and turned on Naruto once more, its eyes blazing with anger. Naruto knew he was running out of time. His chakra was nearly depleted, and Nu wasn't going to stop until it tore him apart. He had to do something drastic. Closing his eyes, Naruto focused on the bond between him and the shadows. He could feel Nu's presence, wild, chaotic, but not entirely malevolent. There was something deeper there, a core of ancient wisdom hidden beneath the beast's fury. "I get it now," Naruto whispered, his voice barely audible. "You're not just a monster. You're a force of nature." With a deep breath, Naruto opened his eyes and reached out with his chakra, connecting with Nu on a deeper level. The beast hesitated, its golden eyes flickering with something like recognition. Naruto stepped forward, his hand outstretched. "You're not my enemy, Nu. We're in this together." For a moment, the air was still. Then, slowly, Nu lowered its head, its massive form trembling as it submitted to Naruto's will. Naruto let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. He had done it. Nu was his. With Nu under his control, Naruto had unlocked another layer of the Tense Shadows technique. But the road ahead was still long, and the challenges were only growing more dangerous. The power of the shadows was immense, but so were the risks. Each new creature brought him closer to the edge of losing control, and Naruto knew that if he slipped, even for a moment, the consequences could be catastrophic. But he wasn't going to give up. He had come too far to stop now. With Kakashi, the wolf, and Nu by his side, Naruto was ready for whatever came next. He would master the Tense Shadows technique, no matter what it took. And when he did, nothing in the shinobi world would be able to stop him. Naruto's mastery over Nu marked a turning point in his training. With each passing day, he grew more comfortable with the Tense Shadows technique, learning how to summon and control the creatures with increasing efficiency. The weight of their presence, once overwhelming, now felt like an extension of his own power. Kakashi, the wolf, and Nu had become familiar allies, each with their own strengths and quirks. But the deeper Naruto delved into the shadows, the more he realized that this power came with a cost. Strange rumors began to circulate around Kanata. Reports of dark creatures spotted in the forests, mysterious shadowy figures seen at the edge of the village at night. People were becoming uneasy. Naruto tried to keep his training discreet, but the presence of such an ancient and powerful technique couldn't go unnoticed for long. It wasn't just his friends or the village that had taken notice. His new abilities had drawn the attention of powerful enemies lurking in the shadows of the shinobi world. One evening, after a particularly exhausting training session, Naruto returned to the village only to be greeted by Shikamaru at the gates. "Hey, Naruto," Shikamaru said, his usual lazy tone replaced with a more serious one. "We need to talk." Naruto frowned. "What's up, Shikamaru? Something wrong?" Shikamaru glanced around, ensuring no one else was within earshot before speaking in a low voice. "There have been rumors spreading about you, Naruto. Strange things happening in the forests, sightings of dark creatures. The higher Ukis are starting to get worried." Naruto sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "I know, I've been trying to keep things quiet, but this power is hard to control. And it's not just some ordinary jutsu." Shikamaru's sharp eyes narrowed. "Yeah, I've noticed. You've been working with shadows, but not like my cleanse techniques. This is different. It's more dangerous." Naruto hesitated for a moment. He hadn't told anyone outside of Kakashi about the Tense Shadows technique. Even Sasuke and Sakura only knew bits and pieces of what he was doing. But if anyone could understand the gravity of the situation, it was Shikamaru. "I found this ancient scroll," Naruto explained. "It gave me access to something called the Tense Shadows technique. I'm still figuring it out, but the power, it's unlike anything I've ever seen before. These creatures I summon, they aren't just shadows. They have their own minds, their own instincts. And I'm not the only one who knows about them. Shikamaru raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Naruto's expression darkened. Someone else is after this power. I can feel it. The shadows, they've been acting strange lately, like something's pulling at them. It's like there's another force out there, trying to take control. Shikamaru crossed his arms, deep in thought. That's not good. If word gets out about this, it could attract the wrong kind of attention. The last thing we need is another group of rogue shinobi or worse an enemy village trying to use this power against us. Naruto nodded. I know. That's why I need to get stronger, fast. I can't let anyone else get their hands on this technique. Shikamaru let out a sigh. Troublesome as always. All right, I'll help you out. But we need to be careful. If the higher UPS catch wind of this and think you are losing control, they might take drastic measures. And we both know how unpredictable the village council can be. Naruto clenched his fists. The thought of being treated like a threat again, just as he had been with the Nine Tails, filled him with a sense of dread. He wasn't going to let that happen. Not again. A few days later, while Naruto was training in the outskirts of the village, an unfamiliar presence caught his attention. He was practicing with a shadow wolf, trying to fine-tune its agility when he felt it as subtle but distinct chakra's signature watching him from a distance. Naruto turned, his senses on high alert. He could feel the presence lurking in a tree, but whoever it was, they were skilled at hiding their chakra. Too skilled for an ordinary ninja. Who's there? Naruto called out, his voice echoing through the quiet forest. For a moment, there was silence. Then, a figure stepped out from behind the trees, a tall man clad in dark, tattered robes, his face obscured by a mask. His chakra was unlike anything Naruto had felt before, cold, almost predatory. Impressive, the man said, his voice low and smooth. You've mastered 3 of the 10 shadows creatures already. But you've only scratched the surface of the technique's true power. Naruto's eyes narrowed. Who are you? The man didn't answer right away. Instead, he stepped closer, his gaze never leaving Naruto. You're not the first to inherit this power, boy. The 10 shadows technique has been passed down through the ages, from one user to the next. But few have been able to control it. Most are consumed by it. Naruto tightened his grip on his kunai. I'm not like the others. I'll control it. The man chuckled softly, as if amused by Naruto's confidence. Perhaps. Or perhaps you will meet the same fate as those who came before you. The 10 shadows technique is a double-edged sword. It grants immense power, yes, but at a cost. Naruto took a step forward, his eyes blazing with determination. I don't care about the cost. I'll master this technique, no matter what it takes. And I won't let anyone take it from me. The man's expression remained unreadable behind his mask. We shall see. But know this, there are forces at work far beyond your understanding. You may have inherited the power of the shadows, but you are not its master. Not yet. Before Naruto could respond, the man's figure began to fade, dissolving into the shadows around him. In an instant, he was gone, leaving Naruto alone in a clearing, his heart pounding with a mix of anger and unease. Naruto couldn't shake the encounter with the mysterious shinobi. The man's words echoed in his mind. There were others who had used the 10 shadows technique before him, but none had been able to control it fully. What had happened to them? Had they been consumed by the power, just as Kurama had warned? Determined to find answers, Naruto sought out Tsunade, the Hokage. He knew she would have access to the village's vast archives of jutsu and shinobi history. If anyone could shed light on the origins of the 10 shadows technique, it was her. Naruto stood in the Hokage's office, his usual boisterous energy subdued as he explained everything to Tsunade, finding the scroll, the creatures he had summoned, and the strange shinobi who had confronted him in the forest. Tsunade listened in silence, her brow furrowed in thought. When Naruto finished, she leaned back in her chair, letting out a slow breath. "This is troubling," she said finally. "The 10 Shadows technique is not something I've encountered before, but from what you've described, it's incredibly dangerous. And if what that shinobi said is true, then this power has a dark history." Naruto nodded. "I know it's dangerous, but I can handle it. I just need to know more about where it came from. If there's anyone else who's used this power before, I need to learn from their mistakes." Tsunade tapped her fingers on the desk, considering her next words carefully. "I'll have Shizune and the others look into the village's records. If there's any information on the 10 Shadows technique, we'll find it. But in the meantime, you need to be careful, Naruto. If this power is as ancient as it seems, there could be forces beyond our understanding involved." Naruto met her gaze, determination burning in his eyes. "I know. But I'm not backing down. I'll master this power, no matter what." Tsunade sighed, a small smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. "I expected nothing less from you, Naruto. Just don't forget power isn't everything. Control, understanding, that's where true strength lies." Naruto nodded, grateful for her words. As he left the Hokage's office, his mind was already racing. He needed to keep pushing forward, to unlock the remaining shadows and master the technique fully. But the mysterious shinobi's warning lingered in the back of his mind. There were others out there, others who knew about the 10 Shadows technique and its dark history. And they wouldn't stop until they had taken the power for themselves. Word of Naruto's newfound power spread quickly, despite his efforts to keep it under wraps. As the days passed, more reports came in. Rogue shinobi spotted near the village's borders, mysterious figures lurking in the shadows of nearby towns. The atmosphere in Konoha grew tense, as if the village was on the brink of something ominous. Naruto continued his training, but the pressure was mounting. The creatures he had yet to summon loomed large in his mind. He had already tamed 3 of the 10, but the remaining shadows felt more distant, more dangerous. Each new summon would be harder to control than the last. One night, as Naruto trained alone in a forest, the air suddenly grew cold. He felt a powerful chakra signature approaching, unlike any he had sensed before. He spun around, his heart pounding, only to see a figure step out from the shadows. It was the same masked man he had encountered before, but this time, he wasn't alone. Flanking him were 2 other shinobi, their faces obscured by masks, their chakra signatures radiating malice. "You again?" Naruto growled, summoning the shadow wolf to his side. The man chuckled softly, his voice carrying an unsettling calm. "I told you, Naruto. You are not the only one interested in the 10 Shadows technique. My associates and I have come to claim what is rightfully ours." Naruto's fists clenched. "I'm not giving you anything." The masked man's eyes gleamed with cold amusement. "We'll see about that." Naruto stared down the masked shinobi and his 2 companions, his heart pounding in his chest. The air in the forest was thick with tension, and the cold chakra signatures of his enemies sent shivers down his spine. He knew this wasn't just an ordinary skirmish. These shinobi were here for the 10 Shadows technique, and they wouldn't leave without a fight. The leader of the trio stepped forward, his mask concealing his face but not the smug tone in his voice. "You've barely scratched the surface of the 10 Shadows technique, boy. You're not worthy of it. Give it up now, and we'll let you live." Naruto clenched his fists, the shadow wolf growling at his side. "You're not taking anything from me. If you want this power, you'll have to fight me for it." The leader chuckled darkly, signaling to his companions with a slight nod. "Very well. Let's see if you're as strong as you think." Without another word, the 2 masked shinobi lunged at Naruto, their movements swift and precise. Naruto barely had time to react as they closed the distance between them. He leapt back, summoning Karasu to provide air support. The shadow bird swooped down, its sharp talons aiming for the shinobi on the right, while the wolf darted forward to intercept the other. The first shinobi evaded Karasu's attack with ease, flitting into the air and launching a flurry of kunai at Naruto. The second one wasn't so easily thrown off by the wolf's charge either, using swift and fluid movements to avoid its snapping jaws. Naruto gritted his teeth, forming a raise-nan in his hand as he prepared to counterattack. "Let's see how you like this." He charged forward, aiming the raise-nan at the first masked shinobi, but his opponent was faster than he expected. The shinobi sidestepped at the last moment, grabbing Naruto's wrist and using his own momentum against him to throw him off balance. Naruto tumbled across the ground, grunting as he scrambled back to his feet. These shinobi weren't just skilled, they were experienced fighters, and they knew exactly how to counter his moves. He'd have to dig deeper into his arsenal if he wanted to win this. As the two masked shinobi closed in on him again, Naruto knew he couldn't afford to hold back any longer. He needed to unleash Nu. He formed the hand seals quickly, pouring his chakra into the summoning technique. Kukios, Nu. The ground trembled as the shadows around him surged, coalescing into the massive form of Nu. The beast's golden eyes gleamed with predatory intelligence as it emerged, its tiger-like body riddling with power. The moment it appeared, the atmosphere of the battlefield shifted, the two masked shinobi hesitating for just a moment as they took in the sight of the legendary creature. Without wasting any time, Naruto commanded Nu to attack. The beast let out a deafening roar and charged at the nearest enemy, its claws slashing through the air with terrifying speed. The shinobi barely managed to dodge, rolling to the side as Nu's claws left deep gouges in the earth where he had stood. The second shinobi wasn't as lucky. As he attempted to launch a counterattack, Nu's snake-like tail lashed out, wrapping around him and pinning him to the ground with crushing force. The masked man struggled, trying to free himself, but Nu's grip was unyielding. Naruto smirked, feeling a surge of confidence. "Looks like you're not so tough after all." But the leader of the trio, who had been watching the battle from the sidelines, finally decided to make his move. He stepped forward, his cold gaze fixed on Naruto. "Impressive, but don't think that summoning one beast will save you?" He raised his hand, forming a series of hand seals faster than Naruto could follow. Suddenly, the shadows around the leader began to shift and writhe, taking shape into something unnatural. A monstrous figure formed from pure darkness. It was larger than Nu, with twisted limbs and a gaping maw filled with sharp teeth. Naruto's eyes widened. "What the?" The shadow creature lunged at Nu with frightening speed, its enormous claws slamming into the beast's side. Nu roared in pain, stumbling back as the shadow beast overwhelmed it. Naruto gritted his teeth, feeling the strain of maintaining his connection to Nu as the battle raged on. "Don't underestimate me, brat," the leader taunted, his voice cold and mocking. "I've mastered shadows far beyond anything you can imagine." Naruto could feel his chakra reserves dwindling as he fought to keep Nu in the battle. The massive shadow beast summoned by the masked leader was unlike anything he had faced before. Its movements were erratic, almost otherworldly, and it seemed to absorb every attack Nu landed on it. "Damn it," Naruto muttered under his breath. "This thing is tougher than I thought." The leader of the masked shinobi watched with amusement as Naruto struggled. "You don't even know the true nature of the shadows you're wielding, do you? The 10 shadows technique is ancient, but its power comes from something far darker than you realize." Naruto's mind raced. He didn't know exactly what the leader was talking about, but he didn't care. He had come too far to give up now. With a determined shout, he formed a raise-nan in his hand and charged at the masked leader. But the leader was ready. With a flick of his wrist, he summoned a wave of dark tendrils from the shadow creature, blocking Naruto's attack before it could land. The tendrils wrapped around Naruto's body, pinning him in place. "You're not strong enough to control the shadows," the leader said, his voice filled with disdain. "You'll never master them." Naruto struggled against the shadowy tendrils, his chakra flaring as he fought to break free. He could feel the weight of the shadows pressing down on him, but he refused to give in. He couldn't let these enemies take control of the 10 shadows technique, not after everything he had been through. Summoning every ounce of strength he had left, Naruto focused on a bond he had formed with his shadow creatures. He called out to Karasuo, the wolf, and Nu, his chakra resonating with theirs. In response, the shadows around him pulsed with energy, and the tendrils holding him began to weaken. "You think I can control the shadows?" Naruto growled, his eyes blazing with determination. "Watch me." With a roar, Naruto shattered the shadowy tendrils binding him, his chakras surging as he called forth the full power of his creatures. Karasu swooped down from the sky, its talons glowing with dark energy as it struck the leader's shadow beast. The wolf leapt into the fray, its teeth sinking into the creature's legs, while Nu unleashed a devastating roar, shaking the ground beneath them. The leader of the masked shinobi stumbled back, his confidence faltering as Naruto's shadow creatures overwhelmed his own. "No!" the leader shouted, forming more hand seals in a desperate attempt to regain control. But it was too late. Naruto's creatures, fueled by his unrelenting will, tore through the shadow beast with a ferocity that left the leader reeling. With a final burst of chakra, Naruto formed a Rasengan in his hand, this time infused with the power of the shadows. "This is the end," he shouted, charging at the leader with all his might. The Rasengan collided with the leader's chest, and for a moment, time seemed to freeze. Then, with a deafening explosion, the masked shinobi was sent flying backward, crashing into the trees with a sickening thud. Naruto stood panting, his body trembling with exhaustion. The shadow creatures faded away, retreating back into the darkness from which they had come. The battle was over. As the dust settled, Naruto surveyed the battlefield. The leader of the masked shinobi lay unconscious at the base of a tree, his mask shattered and his body limp. His two companions, who had been incapacitated by Naruto's creatures earlier in the fight, were similarly defeated, lying in crumpled heaps on the ground. Naruto's head throbbed with exhaustion, but he allowed himself a small smile. He had won. But as he stood there, catching his breath, a troubling thought crept into his mind. The leader had said something about the true nature of the shadows, something darker than he realized. What did he mean by that? Before Naruto could ponder it further, the sound of approaching footsteps snapped him out of his thoughts. He turned to see Kakashi and Shikamaru arriving on the scene, both of them looking grim. "Kakashi-sensei." "Shikamaru." Naruto called out, relief flooding through him. Kakashi's eye crinkled in a smile beneath his mask, but his voice was serious. "You did well, Naruto. But we need to figure out who these shinobi are and why they were after the 10 shadows technique." Shikamaru knelt beside one of the unconscious shinobi, inspecting the strange markings on their robes. "This isn't good. These symbols, they belong to a rogue faction we've been monitoring for a while. If they are after the 10 shadows technique, it means they know more than we do." Naruto frowned. "So what do we do now?" Kakashi exchanged a glance with Shikamaru, then turned back to Naruto. "We take them back to the village for questioning. We need to find out what they know about the 10 shadows technique and who else might be after it. This isn't just about you anymore, Naruto. This is a much bigger threat." As they began the journey back to Tsunade, Naruto couldn't shake the feeling of unease settling in the pit of his stomach. He had triumphed in battle, but at what cost? The shadows he wielded were powerful, but they also attracted danger. And if there were others out there who understood the 10 shadows technique better than he did, the battle was far from over. Once they reached the village, Naruto resolved to train harder than ever before. He needed to unlock the remaining shadows and master the 10 shadows technique completely. He couldn't afford to let anyone else take this power from him, not again. As night fell over Tsunade, Naruto stared up at the stars, his mind racing with possibilities. He had faced the darkness and emerged victorious, but the shadows still loomed large in his future. He would rise to the challenge. He would protect his friends, his village, and the power that had been entrusted to him. And he would do it all with the strength of the 10 shadows at his side. The sun rose over Tsunade, casting golden rays across the village. Despite the tranquil scene, a sense of foreboding hung in the air. Naruto sat in his room, surrounded by scrolls filled with ancient knowledge about the 10 shadows technique. His mind raced as he tried to process everything he had learned during the previous battle. His training with Kakashi and Shikamaru had already begun, focusing on understanding the intricacies of the 10 Shadows technique. Each day brought new revelations, but Naruto was eager to uncover the dark secrets that seemed to lurk beneath the surface. "Hey, Naruto?" Sakura called out, entering his room with a smile. "Kakashi-sensei wants us to meet at the training grounds. Are you ready?" Naruto nodded, pushing aside his scrolls. "Yeah, I'm ready. I want to master this technique and find out everything I can about it." "Let's go then," Sakura replied, her excitement contagious. As they made their way to the training grounds, Naruto felt a surge of determination. He had been entrusted with a powerful technique, and he wouldn't let anyone down. He thought of his friends, the village, and the looming threat from the rogue faction. He had to grow stronger. Kakashi and Shikamaru were already waiting for them at the training grounds, standing beneath the shade of a large tree. The atmosphere was tense, with Shikamaru looking particularly troubled. "Good, you're here," Kakashi said, his voice calm but serious. "We need to focus on your control over the shadows, Naruto. The more you understand this technique, the better prepared you'll be for what's coming." Shikamaru added, "We can't underestimate the rogue faction. They'll be back, and we need to be ready for them." Naruto's heart raced at the thought of facing them again. "What do you want me to do?" Kakashi gestured for him to step forward. "First, let's work on channeling your chakra into the shadows effectively. Remember, each shadow has its own characteristics and abilities. You need to learn to harness them, not just summon them." Naruto took a deep breath, focusing on the shadows around him. He envisioned Karasuo, the shadow wolf, forming beside him. "Kukios, Karasuo." The dark form of the wolf materialized, its golden eyes shining with anticipation. With a flick of its tail, it circled around Naruto, ready for instructions. "Now, try to connect with it," Kakashi instructed. "Feel the bond you have with your shadows and channel your chakra through that connection." Naruto closed his eyes, letting the familiar energy flow through him. He reached out mentally, feeling Karasuo's essence intertwining with his own. A warm sensation enveloped him as their chakra resonated, and he felt the wolf grow stronger beside him. "Good. Now, commanded to attack," Kakashi prompted. "Karasuo, let's go," Naruto shouted, pointing forward. The wolf sprang into action, darting toward a nearby target and striking with incredible precision. The power of the 10 shadows surged through Naruto, and for the first time, he felt a deeper connection to Karasuo, a bond that transcended mere summoning. "Excellent," Kakashi praised. "Now, try summoning another shadow." With a nod, Naruto focused again, this time calling forth the shadow wolf and the mighty Nu. "Kukios, Nu." The massive form of Nu erupted from the shadows, its presence commanding and powerful. The two creatures stood at Naruto's side, each one representing a different aspect of his abilities. "Now, direct them both," Shikamaru said, a hint of admiration in his voice. "This is where it gets tricky." Naruto felt his surge of excitement as he commanded both shadows to attack the targets placed around the training grounds. "Karasuo, Nu. Go." The wolf and the beast surged forward, working in unison. But as they clashed against the targets, Naruto felt a strain on his chakra reserves. Controlling multiple shadows at once was far more demanding than he had anticipated. "Focus, Naruto," Kakashi called out. "You need to channel your energy evenly. Don't let the shadows act independently, make them extensions of yourself." "I'm trying," Naruto grunted, feeling the pressure build. "It's harder than it looks." Suddenly, the shadows began to flicker. Karasuo stumbled, and Nu let out a low growl, their forms wavering as Naruto struggled to maintain control. "Breathe, Naruto," Shikamaru shouted. "You can do this." Taking a deep breath, Naruto steadied himself. He closed his eyes and focused on the bond he shared with Karasuo and Nu. He envisioned them not just as creatures he summoned but as part of his own being. In that moment, he understood, the 10 shadows technique wasn't just about power, it was about connection. Karasuo, Nu. Together, he commanded, feeling their chakra intertwine with his own. In an instant, the shadows stabilized, their forms solidifying as they surged toward the targets once more, this time with renewed vigor. The strikes were precise and powerful, and Naruto felt a rush of exhilaration as he witnessed their synergy. Yes. That's it. Kakashi exclaimed, his voice filled with pride. You're starting to grasp the true essence of the 10 Shadows technique. Naruto grinned, the thrill of success coursing through him. I can feel it. We are getting stronger. But just as they celebrated this victory, a chilling wind swept through the training grounds, sending a shiver down Naruto's spine. The sense of foreboding returned, a reminder that their victory was temporary and the danger still loomed on the horizon. A disturbance in a village. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Naruto gathered with his friends in a village square. They sat together, sharing stories and laughter, but Naruto couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that had settled in his chest. Hey, you all right? Sakura asked, noticing his distracted demeanor. Yeah, just thinking about the rogue faction, Naruto admitted, staring at the ground. What if they come back? What if I'm not strong enough? Don't worry, Sasuke chimed in, his voice steady. You've got the 10 Shadows technique now. We'll face them together. We've fought worse enemies before. Exactly, Shikamaru added, crossing his arms. You're not alone in this. We'll make a plan and prepare for anything they throw at us. Naruto nodded, feeling a surge of gratitude for his friends. Thanks, guys. I won't let you down. But as they continued their discussion, a commotion erupted in a distance. A figure burst into the square, panting heavily, and the villagers around them grew anxious. What's going on? Naruto called out, rushing toward the newcomer. It's the North Gate, the figure shouted, his voice trembling. A group of rogue shinobi has breached the village perimeter. They are headed this way. A collective gasp swept through the crowd. Naruto's heart raced as he exchanged alarmed glances with his friends. Looks like they've come for a fight, Kakashi said, appearing at Naruto's side, his expression serious. We need to act fast. Gather the shinobi. Naruto felt the weight of the situation settle on his shoulders. This was the moment he had been training for. The rogue faction was here, and he would do everything in his power to protect his village. Within moments, the training grounds transformed into a makeshift command center as shinobi from all over the village gathered. Naruto stood at the front alongside Kakashi, Shikamaru, and the others, his heart pounding in his chest. Listen up. Kakashi began, his voice steady and authoritative. A group of rogue shinobi has breached our defenses. We don't know how many there are, but we must act quickly to protect the village. Shikamaru quickly laid out the strategy. We'll split into teams. Naruto, you'll lead one of the squads. Use the 10 Shadows technique to your advantage. We need to contain the situation and prevent any casualties. Naruto felt a rush of adrenaline as he nodded. Got it. I won't let you down. Stay focused, Kakashi added, his gaze serious. Remember, these shinobi are dangerous. We need to work together. As the teams were formed, Naruto's mind raced with thoughts of his shadow creatures. He had to be ready for anything. He called forth Karasuo and Nu, feeling their presence at his side. They would fight with him, and together, they would protect Konoha. Let's move out. Naruto shouted, leading his squad toward the North Gate. The village felt alive with tension, every shinobi ready to defend their home against the encroaching threat. When they arrived at the North Gate, Naruto's heart sank at the sight before him. A group of rogue shinobi, their masks adorned with sinister symbols, stood waiting. They were an imposing sight, exuding an aura of malice that sent chills down Naruto's spine. The leader of the rogue faction stepped forward, a cruel smile spreading across his face. Ah, the hero of Konoha graces us with his presence. We've come to take what is rightfully ours, the power of the 10 Shadows. Naruto clenched his fists, fury coursing through him. You'll have to go through me first. The rogue leader chuckled darkly, raising his hand. Very well, let's see what you can do. With a swift motion, the rogue shinobi lunged forward, their chakra flaring as they attacked. Naruto's heart raced as he summoned Karasuo and Nu, ready to fight. Karasuo, attack, he shouted, directing the shadow wolf at the nearest rogue shinobi. The battle erupted into chaos. Naruto fought fiercely alongside his friends, the clash of jutsu and the sound of battle filling the air. Karasuo darted in and out of the fray, while Nu unleashed its powerful roar, keeping the rogue shinobi at bay. Naruto felt a surge of chakra as he channeled the 10 Shadows technique, summoning additional shadow creatures to join the fight. The battlefield became a swirling dance of light and dark, with Naruto at the center, determined to protect his village. As the battle raged on, Naruto found himself face to face with a rogue leader. The man's eyes glinted with malice, a wicked grin stretching across his face. You think you can protect Kanata? You're just a child playing with forces you don't understand, the leader taunted, launching a barrage of shadowy projectiles at Naruto. Naruto dodged skillfully, using Karasuo to counterattack. You have no idea what I'm capable of. The 10 Shadows are more than just power, they are a bond I share with my creatures. Foolish words, the leader spat, weaving hand signs as he summoned a monstrous shadow beast of his own. Let's see how you fare against this. The ground trembled as the shadow creature materialized, its twisted form looming over Naruto. Fear threatened to creep in, but Naruto remembered his training. He focused on the connection he had forged with his shadows. Nu. Karasuo. We can do this, he shouted, feeling the warmth of their bond. As the shadow creature lunged forward, Naruto gathered all his chakra, channeling it into a powerful Raise-nan. Raise-nan. Let's finish this. The attack collided with the rogue leader's shadow creature, and shockwave erupting from the impact. The force sent both Naruto and the rogue leader sprawling back, but Naruto quickly regained his footing. Breathing heavily, he glanced at the rogue leader, who was now struggling to maintain control of his shadow beast. This ends now. With one final push, Naruto summoned the remaining shadows he had trained with, directing them toward the rogue leader and his creature. The shadows surged forward, overwhelming the enemy as they closed in. The rogue leader's expression shifted from confidence to panic. No. This can't be happening. 10 Shadows. Naruto shouted, feeling the surge of power within him. You will never take this from Kanata. With a final explosion of energy, the rogue leader was sent flying back, his shadow creature collapsing into a wisp of darkness. As the dust settled, Naruto stood victorious, the adrenaline pumping through his veins. We did it, he exclaimed, turning to his friends, who were gathering around him. The other rogue shinobi had been defeated, and the village was safe at least for now. But as the adrenaline began to fade, the weight of what had just happened sank in. He had won, but the rogue faction's presence in Konoha had opened the door to new dangers. The leader's words echoed in his mind. He had been warned about the darkness behind the 10 Shadows technique. As the sun set over Kanata, Naruto stood at the edge of the village, looking out at the horizon. His friends joined him, the camaraderie forged in battle strengthening their bonds. What now? Sakura asked, her voice soft. We need to figure out what the rogue faction wants, Shikamaru replied, crossing his arms. They'll come back, and we need to be prepared. Naruto nodded, determination rising within him. I won't let them take the 10 Shadows technique from me. I'll train harder and master its true potential. Kakashi placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder. Remember, Naruto, power isn't just about strength. It's about the choices we make and the bonds we forge. Stay true to yourself. With those words echoing in his mind, Naruto promised himself to delve deeper into the mysteries of the shadows. He would uncover their secrets and protect his village from whatever darkness lay ahead. As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Naruto felt a renewed sense of purpose. The battle was far from over, but with his friends by his side and the power of the 10 Shadows at his disposal, he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The days that followed the skirmish with the rogue faction were filled with preparations and training, but Naruto felt a lingering unease. He knew that understanding the 10 Shadows technique was essential, not only for his own mastery but also to prepare for the inevitable conflict that loomed ahead. Sitting in the village library, surrounded by ancient scrolls and books, Naruto sifted through pages filled with stories of past shinobi. The dim light illuminated the dust particles dancing in the air, creating an atmosphere steeped in history. His friends joined him, each of them equally determined to uncover the truth behind the shadows. "What do you think we'll find?" Sakura asked, her brow furrowed in concentration as she examined a scroll. "There must be more about the technique in these texts." "I hope so," Naruto replied, his fingers brushing over a worn page. "The more we know, the better we can protect Kanata. The rogue faction isn't going to stop until they get what they want." Shikamaru leaned back in his chair, contemplating. "We should look for anything related to the origins of the 10 Shadows and its previous users. There might be a reason the rogue faction is after it." Just then, an elderly librarian approached, her eyes gleaming with wisdom. "I couldn't help but overhear your conversation. You're interested in the 10 Shadows, aren't you?" Naruto nodded eagerly. "Yes. Do you know anything about its history?" The librarian smiled knowingly. The 10 Shadows are a powerful but enigmatic technique. It's said to have been developed by an ancient clan known for their mastery over shadows and summoning techniques. Their legacy has been shrouded in secrecy for centuries." Intrigued, Naruto and his friends leaned in closer. "What happened to the clan?" Sakura asked, her voice filled with curiosity. "The clan was powerful, feared and respected by many. However, their ability to manipulate shadows also attracted unwanted attention. They became embroiled in conflicts with other factions who sought to seize their power for themselves. Eventually, the clan was destroyed in a great war, their knowledge scattered and lost." Naruto's heart sank at the thought of such tragedy. So the technique was lost. "Not entirely," the librarian continued. "Some scrolls and records survived, though they are difficult to find. The rogue faction you encountered might be searching for these remnants to harness the 10 Shadows for their own purposes." "What do we need to do?" Naruto asked, determination lighting up his eyes. "We can't let them get their hands on any more power." The librarian glanced at a specific scroll on the shelf behind her. "There's a legend about a hidden shrine that contains the remaining knowledge of the clan. It's said to be located deep in the Forest of Death, protected by powerful wards. If you can find it, you may uncover the secrets you seek." Excitement and determination coursed through Naruto as he exchanged glances with his friends. "We have to find this shrine. It could be the key to stopping the rogue faction." "Sounds like a plan," Shikamaru agreed, his eyes reflecting a rare spark of enthusiasm. "But we should prepare ourselves. The Forest of Death is dangerous, and we don't know what kind of traps or creatures we might encounter." Sakura nodded, her expression serious. "Let's gather supplies and inform Kakashi-sensei about our plan. We'll need backup." As they prepared for their journey, Naruto couldn't shake the feeling that this quest was more than just about the 10 Shadows. It was about understanding his own identity and the legacy of the shadows that had chosen him. The next morning, with their supplies packed and resolve firm, Naruto, Sakura, and Shikamaru set off toward the Forest of Death. The air was thick with anticipation, and the trees loomed like sentinels, casting long shadows that seemed to beckon them deeper into the woods. "This place always gives me the creeps," Sakura remarked, glancing around nervously. "Just stick close together," Shikamaru advised, his eyes scanning the surroundings. "We'll be fine as long as we stay alert." As they ventured deeper into the forest, the sunlight dimmed, filtered through the dense canopy above. The sound of rustling leaves and distant animal calls filled the air, but an unsettling silence seemed to envelop them as they pressed on. "Do you think we'll find the shrine?" Naruto asked, his heart racing with excitement and anxiety. "We have to," Shikamaru replied, determination etched on his face. "It's our only chance." After what felt like hours of navigating the forest's winding paths, they stumbled upon a clearing bathed in an ethereal light. At the center stood an ancient stone structure, overgrown with vines and surrounded by towering trees. It emanated an aura of mystery and power. "This must be it," Naruto said, his eyes wide with awe. "The shrine of the Shadow Clan." As they approached the shrine, Naruto felt a strange energy pulsing in the air. The stones seemed to hum with life, and he sensed the shadows around him growing restless, almost eager. "I can feel it too," Sakura whispered, her gaze fixed on the entrance. "There's something powerful inside." Shikamaru stepped forward cautiously, examining the entrance. "It looks like the shrine is protected by wards. We need to deactivate them before we can enter." Naruto nodded, determination surging within him. "Let's do it." Together, they began examining the intricate patterns carved into the stones, searching for a way to break the wards. Shikamaru analyzed the seals while Naruto and Sakura assisted, working in harmony to unravel the protective enchantments. After a tense few moments, Shikamaru's eyes lit up. "I think I've got it. We need to channel our chakra into these symbols while focusing on dispelling the wards." "Let's do it," Naruto shouted, placing his hand on a stone and channeling his chakra into the design. As their chakra flowed into the seals, the air crackled with energy. The wards began to glow, pulsing rhythmically before finally dissipating with a brilliant flash of light. The entrance to the shrine creaked open, revealing a dark passageway that led into the heart of the structure. "Here goes nothing," Naruto said, stepping forward with his friends by his side. As they ventured into the shrine, the atmosphere shifted. The air was heavy with anticipation, and the walls were adorned with intricate carvings depicting shadow creatures and their previous users. It felt as though they were stepping into a forgotten world. "Look at all these carvings," Sakura breathed, tracing her fingers along the engravings. "It's like they are telling a story." "They are probably the history of the Shadow Clan," Shikamaru replied, studying the imagery. "We need to remember all of this." As they continued deeper into the shrine, they reached a large chamber at its core. In the center stood a stone pedestal, and upon it rested a dusty, ancient scroll. "This must be it," Naruto said, his heart racing. "The knowledge we need." He approached the pedestal, reaching out to grasp the scroll. As he lifted it, a sudden rush of energy surged through him, and shadows flickered to life around the chamber. "What's happening?" Sakura exclaimed, eyes wide. "I don't know." "Stay back," Naruto shouted as the shadows swirled around him, forming into familiar shapes. Karasu and Nu materialized, standing protectively at his side. "Do not be afraid," a voice echoed through the chamber, resonating with power and authority. "You are worthy of the shadows, young one." "Who are you?" Naruto called out, his voice steady despite the intensity of the situation. "I am a remnant of the Shadow Clan," the voice replied, the shadows shifting to reveal an ethereal figure, a spirit draped in darkness with glimmers of light within. "I have waited for one like you to awaken the legacy of the 10 shadows." As the spirit spoke, the chamber came alive with memories of the past, visions of the clan's history, their battles, and their ultimate downfall. Naruto felt a connection to these memories, a deep understanding of the shadows that had chosen him. "The 10 shadows technique is both a gift and a curse," the spirit continued, its form flickering with energy. "It grants immense power, but it also attracts darkness. You must learn to wield it wisely." "I will," Naruto vowed, determination igniting within him. "I won't let the shadows consume me." "The path you walk will be perilous," the spirit warned. "The rogue faction seeks to exploit this power. They will stop at nothing to claim it for themselves." "I know," Naruto replied, clenching his fists. "But I have my friends by my side. We'll protect Konoha and each other." "Then you must learn the true essence of the 10 shadows," the spirit instructed, its presence becoming more tangible. "To unlock its full potential, you must master not only the power but also the bonds you form with your shadows. They are your allies, not mere tools." As the spirit spoke, shadows began to swirl around Naruto, enveloping him in a cocoon of energy. Memories of his battles, his friends, and the connections he had forged flooded his mind, reinforcing the understanding that true strength lay in unity. When the shadows receded, Naruto found himself back in the chamber, breathless but invigorated. The scroll lay open before him, revealing intricate symbols and seals that pulsed with energy. "This is amazing," he exclaimed, excitement bubbling within him. "With this knowledge, we can unlock the true potential of the 10 shadows." Sakura and Shikamaru stepped closer, their eyes filled with awe. "We can't let this go to waste," Shikamaru said, his mind already strategizing. "We need to train and prepare for the rogue faction." Naruto nodded, a fierce determination in his heart. "We'll make sure that Kana is safe, no matter what it takes." As they gathered a scroll and prepared to leave the shrine, Naruto felt a renewed sense of purpose. The legacy of the shadows was now intertwined with his own, and he was ready to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead. As Naruto, Sakura, and Shikamaru made their way back to Kanade, the weight of the scroll filled with ancient knowledge hung heavy in Naruto's pack. He felt a sense of urgency mixed with excitement, eager to begin his training but aware that time was of the essence. The rogue faction had tasted defeat but would not give up easily. Once they returned to the village, they immediately sought out Kakashi. They found him lounging under a tree, book in hand, seemingly unconcerned about the world around him. But as Naruto approached, Kakashi looked up, the glimmer of interest in his eye evident. "You found the shrine?" Kakashi asked, raising an eyebrow. "We did," Naruto replied, practically bouncing on his heels. "And we learned so much about the 10 shadows. But we need your help to train and master this technique before the rogue faction comes back." Kakashi set his book down, his expression shifting to one of seriousness. "I'm glad you found what you were looking for. The training will be crucial, especially since the rogue faction is still a threat." Shikamaru stepped forward. "We have to ensure we are ready for anything. They are likely planning their next move even as we speak." Kakashi nodded. "Then we'll start your training right away. But I must warn you, mastering the 10 shadows will not be easy. It requires both physical and mental discipline, as well as a strong bond with your shadows." The following days were filled with intense training sessions. Naruto, Sakura, and Shikamaru would gather at the training grounds early in the morning, armed with a scroll and their newfound determination. "Let's start with the basics of the 10 shadows," Kakashi instructed. "You need to establish a deeper connection with your shadow allies. This means understanding their strengths, weaknesses, and how to work together seamlessly." Naruto nodded, eager to get started. "Karasuo, Nu, come forth." With a flash of chakra, the 2 shadow creatures appeared beside him, their forms shimmering in his sunlight. Karasuo, the wolf with midnight fur, stood poised and ready, while Nu, the fearsome serpent, coiled around Naruto protectively. "First, let's focus on coordination," Kakashi said. "You'll need to summon your shadows to perform combined attacks. Start with basic movements, and then work up to more complex techniques." They spent hours practicing, summoning their shadows for various drills. At first, Naruto struggled to synchronize his movements with Karasuo and Nu. His commands were met with chaotic results. One moment, Karasuo would sprint ahead, and the next, Nu would misjudge its trajectory, causing minor explosions as they crashed into each other. "Focus, Naruto," Kakashi called out, watching intently. "You need to see your shadows as extensions of yourself, not separate entities." Naruto took a deep breath, feeling the rhythm of his own chakra flowing through him. "Okay, let's try this again," he shouted, calling forth the shadows with renewed focus. With that, Karasuo and Nu moved in unison, darting around Naruto as he directed them. He felt a surge of pride as they executed a simple pincer movement, trapping an imaginary opponent. "That's better," Sakura encouraged, her eyes shining with excitement. "You're starting to get the hang of it." "Thanks, Sakura." Naruto grinned, the camaraderie giving him an extra boost of energy. Over the next few days, they continued to hone their skills. Shikamaru focused on strategy, devising tactical maneuvers that could leverage Naruto's shadow abilities effectively. He worked on creating distraction techniques, using Karasu's speed to mislead opponents while Nu delivered powerful strikes. As the training progressed, they began to combine their individual strengths, creating a harmonious synergy. Naruto could feel the bond between him and his shadows deepening, and he could sense that they were becoming more than just tools, they were allies in every sense. However, the emotional connection with his shadows was proving more challenging than a physical training. During one session, he called forth the remaining shadows he had yet to summon, feeling a bit of uncertainty as he did so. "Come forth, my shadows," he exclaimed, and to his surprise, only a few of them appeared. Why didn't the others come? He wondered aloud, his brow furrowed in confusion. Kakashi observed quietly, then spoke. "Each of your shadows has a will of his own. They'll respond to you based on your emotional state. If you doubt yourself, they may hesitate. You need to establish trust with all of them." That night, Naruto sat alone under the stars, the weight of Kakashi's words heavy in his heart. The moon illuminated his surroundings, casting long shadows that danced across the ground. "Why can't I get it right?" he whispered, staring into the distance. "I thought I could handle this power, but what if I'm not strong enough?" Suddenly, he felt a soft presence beside him. It was Karasuo, its eyes glowing with understanding. The wolf leaned against him, a comforting weight that brought a sense of warmth. "You're not alone, Naruto," Karasuo seemed to convey, its presence reassuring. "We're with you, always." Encouraged, Naruto placed a hand on Karasuo's head. "I know. I just need to believe in myself and in you all. I want to protect Konoha. I want to be stronger." With that resolve, he closed his eyes and focused, envisioning all his shadows gathered around him. He felt a rush of energy, and with newfound confidence, he summoned the remaining shadows. This time, they materialized, each one forming a circle around him. Rokuro, the towering figure of strength, Shaku, the cunning fox, and the rest of his shadow allies stood united. "Yes! I did it!" Naruto shouted, his voice echoing through the night. The next day, fueled by his newfound confidence, Naruto trained harder than ever. He practiced combining attacks with all his shadows, channeling their unique abilities into fluid movements. It was a grueling process, but as they trained, their coordination improved. Kakashi watched with a proud smile, impressed by their progress. "You've come a long way, Naruto. But remember, mastering the 10 shadows is more than just physical strength, it's about knowing your shadow's true nature." As the days turned into weeks, Naruto, Sakura, and Shikamaru found themselves pushing their limits further than they ever imagined. They developed new techniques that utilized their unique synergy. Karasuo would provide speed and distraction, while Nu unleashed powerful attacks from a distance, and Naruto combined their abilities in devastating combos. One afternoon, as they took a break, Shikamaru looked thoughtful. "With our training, we've come a long way. But we still need to think about the rogue faction. They won't sit idle." "Right," Sakura agreed, her brow furrowed in thought. "We should be prepared for anything. If they come after the scroll or us, we need to be ready." Naruto clenched his fists, determination blazing in his eyes. "We'll be ready. I won't let them hurt Konoha or take what's ours." Weeks passed in a blur of training and strategizing. They continued to deepen their bonds with their shadows, discovering new abilities and strengths. As they practiced, Naruto began to feel more in tune with the power of the 10 shadows, embracing the legacy that had been bestowed upon him. But as they reached the end of their training regimen, a sense of foreboding hung in the air. Reports of rogue shinobi sightings near Konoha began to surface, signaling that the time for action was drawing near. "We can't ignore these signs," Kakashi warned during a meeting with the trio. "The rogue faction will strike again. We need to be vigilant and ready." Naruto nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. "I'm ready. I won't let them take anything from us." Sakura and Shikamaru exchanged glances, determination evident in their expressions. "We're with you, Naruto," Sakura said firmly. The trio's bond had grown stronger, forged through their trials and training. They had become a team, prepared to face whatever challenges awaited them. The tranquility that enveloped Konoha was abruptly shattered as reports of the rogue faction's movements intensified. Whispers of their planning and gatherings sent ripples of tension through the village. Naruto, Sakura, and Shikamaru, having completed their training, now stood at the forefront of the impending storm. "Look at this," Shikamaru said, spreading out a map across the table in the Hulkish's office. "These markers indicate their last known positions. They are closing in on the village." Kakashi leaned over the map, his brow furrowed. "If they are this organized, it suggests they are planning a coordinated attack. We need to alert the villagers and prepare defenses." Naruto clenched his fists, the air thick with determination. "We can't let them breach the village. We need to be ready to fight back." Sakura nodded, her expression resolute. "We have to protect our home at all costs. We've trained hard for this moment." "Exactly," Kakashi replied, his voice steady. "We'll need all available shinobi to defend the village. I want everyone on high alert." Mobilizing the forces. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across Konoha, Naruto, Sakura, and Shikamaru joined the other shinobi in mobilizing the defenses. They worked tirelessly to strengthen the village's barriers and set traps to thwart any potential attacks. "Shikamaru, I want you to coordinate with the other teams," Kakashi instructed. "Sakura, gather any medics and prepare them for injuries we may encounter. Naruto, I want you on the front lines with me." "Got it," Naruto exclaimed, adrenaline coursing through him. The weight of responsibility felt heavy yet empowering. The villagers looked on with mixed expressions of fear and hope as the shinobi readied themselves. Children were ushered into the shelters, and families gathered their belongings, preparing for the worst. "Remember, no matter what happens, we protect Konoha together," Naruto shouted to the gathering villagers, his voice echoing with conviction. The night wore on, a tense silence hanging in the air as everyone awaited the rogue faction's assault. Suddenly, the calm was broken by the unmistakable sound of footsteps and shouts echoing through the trees. "They are here," Shikamaru shouted, signaling to the other shinobi. As the rogue faction emerged from the shadows, their faces twisted with malice, Naruto felt a surge of adrenaline. He summoned Karasu and knew, the shadows appearing beside him in a swirl of dark energy. "Let's do this," Naruto shouted, rallying his friends and allies. "Protect Konoha." The first wave of attackers surged forward, and Naruto quickly leaped into action. With a flick of his wrist, he commanded Karasu to dart ahead, creating distractions as he summoned his other shadows into the fray. "New, flank left," he ordered, feeling the connection between them strengthen as they worked in unison. The servant struck out with his powerful tail, knocking back several rogue shinobi with a single blow. As Naruto fought, he felt the weight of the scroll's knowledge flow through him. He began to tap into the full potential of the 10 shadows, channeling his chakra and commanding his allies with precision. The clash of kunai and shuriken filled the air, mingled with the cries of battle. Sakura, using her medical ninjutsu, quickly tended to wounded allies while also fighting back with her own formidable strength. "Stay focused," she yelled, delivering a powerful punch to an approaching enemy. "We can't let them break through." Shikamaru, coordinating the defenses from behind, analyzed the rogue shinobi's movements. "They are trying to create a breach in the east. We need to reinforce that area." Naruto glanced at his friends, determination etched on his face. "I'll cover you. I can handle the shadows." With a fierce shout, he unleashed the full power of the 10 shadows, summoning each shadow to assist in fending off the attackers. The battlefield became a whirlwind of shadows and chakra, and Naruto felt the power surging through him. "Let's push them back," he yelled, his voice cutting through the chaos. With Karasu leading the charge, the shadows flanked the rogue shinobi from all sides. The confusion among the ranks was palpable as they struggled to fend off the relentless onslaught. Just as victory seemed within reach, a figure emerged from the shadows, radiating a menacing aura. The rogue leader, cloaked in darkness, stepped forward, his presence commanding instant fear among the shinobi. "Foolish children," he sneered, his voice dripping with disdain. You think you can protect this pathetic village? Naruto narrowed his eyes, recognizing the threat. We won't let you take Konoha. We'll stop you here. The rogue leader laughed, a chilling sound that sent shivers down Naruto's spine. You have no idea what true power is. The 10 shadows belong to me. With a swift motion, he summoned a dark energy that rippled through the air, pushing back Naruto's shadows momentarily. The air crackled with tension as the two forces clashed. Karasuo, new, attack. Naruto commanded, focusing his energy to regain control. The shadows surged forward, but the rogue leader countered with a flick of his wrist, a wave of dark energy exploding around him. The battlefield erupted in chaos as the two forces collided. Naruto fought to maintain control over his shadows, feeling their connection weaken under the rogue leader's overwhelming power. You cannot hope to defeat me, the rogue leader shouted, launching a barrage of dark energy blasts toward Naruto. Naruto ducked and dodged, his heart racing. I won't give up. I have my friends, my village. Summoning all his willpower, he called forth the shadows again, pouring his chakra into them. Together, he yelled, commanding Karasuo and Nude to combine their powers. As the two shadows responded, Naruto felt a surge of energy unlike anything before. The air hummed as they transformed into a powerful vortex of shadows, spiraling toward the rogue leader. Is that all you've got? The rogue leader taunted, but Naruto could see the flicker of doubt in his eyes. This is just the beginning. Naruto shouted, pushing himself further. The shadows expanded, wrapping around the rogue leader in a binding embrace. Release me, he roared, struggling against the shadows. But the more he fought, the tighter their grip became. With a final burst of energy, Naruto shouted, now. The shadows surged forward, combining their powers into a massive energy blast that erupted toward the rogue leader. The impact sent shockwaves through the battlefield, illuminating the darkness with brilliant light. The rogue leader was thrown back, crashing into the ground, and the remaining rogue shinobi faltered, their resolve shaken. Now's our chance, Shikamaru shouted, rallying the other shinobi. Let's push them back. Emboldened by Naruto's display of power, the Konoha shinobi surged forward, the tides of battle turning in their favor. Naruto, breathing heavily but invigorated, felt the shadows rallying around him. Let's finish this. With a collective cry, the Konoha shinobi advanced, overpowering the rogue forces. The cries of battle filled the air, but the sense of victory began to permeate the chaos. As the dust settled, the rogue faction began to retreat, their numbers dwindling under the relentless pressure of Konoha's shinobi. The remaining rogue shinobi fled into the shadows, leaving their leader behind. Naruto approached the fallen rogue leader, his breath heavy. This is where it ends, he declared, summoning Karasuo and Nu by his side. The rogue leader glared at him, but his bravado faltered. You may have won this battle, but you'll never defeat the true darkness. Naruto shook his head, determination in his heart. You don't understand. We are not just fighting for ourselves, we are fighting for our home and our bonds. You can't win against that. As the rogue leader's gaze hardened, the shadows surrounding Naruto pulsed with energy. In a moment of clarity, he understood that this battle was not merely about power, it was about connection and unity. With the rogue leader defeated, the remaining forces scattered, and the shinobi of Konoha stood tall, their spirits renewed. Naruto looked around, witnessing the camaraderie and strength of his village. We did it, he shouted, raising a fist into the air. Cheers erupted from his comrades as they celebrated their hard-fought victory. The bonds they had formed in training had carried them through the chaos of battle. Sakura rushed over, her face lit with joy. You were amazing, Naruto. We couldn't have done it without you. Shikamaru nodded, a smirk on his face. You really pulled through. We make a great team. Naruto smiled, feeling a sense of pride swell within him. Yeah, we did. But this is just the beginning. We need to be ready for whatever comes next. As they regrouped, Kakashi joined them, a satisfied smile on his face. You've all shown remarkable strength and growth. We must remain vigilant, though. The rogue faction may retreat for now, but they will be back. With the dawn breaking over Kanata, the village began to rebuild, tending to the wounded and celebrating their victory. Naruto stood atop the Hokage office, gazing out at the village he loved so dearly. He could feel the weight of responsibility pressing upon him, but with it came an overwhelming sense of hope. He had not only mastered the 10 shadows but also solidified his bonds with his friends and the people of Kanata. Whatever happens next, I'll be ready, he vowed, clenching his fists. As he turned away from the horizon, he felt a sense of purpose coursing through him. The shadows would always be a part of him now, and with their strength, he would face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, the village of Konoha began to return to its usual rhythm, but the scars of the recent battle remained. Shinobi and villagers alike worked together to rebuild the damaged areas, each person contributing to the restoration effort. Naruto, Sakura, and Shikamaru were among them, their hearts filled with a mix of relief and lingering concern. "Hey, Naruto," Sakura called out, dusting her hands off after helping clear debris. "You did great out there, but we need to talk about what's next." Naruto nodded, the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders. "Yeah, I know. We can't just celebrate and forget about the rogue faction. They'll be back, and we need to be ready." Shikamaru leaned against a tree, looking thoughtful. "We should gather as much information as we can about them. The more we know about their motives, the better prepared we'll be." "Agreed," Sakura said. "But how do we go about that? We need to find someone who can help us understand their leader's true intentions." Naruto considered their options. "We could start by interrogating the rogue leader. If we can get answers from him, we might learn what they really want." Later that afternoon, Naruto, Sakura, and Shikamaru stood in a makeshift prison where the rogue leader was being held. The room was dimly lit, and the air was thick with tension as they prepared to confront him. "Are you ready?" Sakura asked, her voice steady but cautious. "Yeah," Naruto replied, determination gleaming in his eyes. "We need to know what they are after." As they entered the room, the rogue leader looked up from where he sat shackled to a chair, his expression a mix of disdain and amusement. "Ah, the heroes of Konoha. What do you want to know?" "I won't give you anything." Naruto stepped forward, fists clenched. "You're going to tell us everything. We're not leaving until we understand what your true intentions are." The rogue leader laughed, a harsh, mocking sound. "You think you can intimidate me? You don't know the darkness that awaits you." Shikamaru, ever the strategist, stepped in. "We're not here to play games. We want to know why you attacked Konoha. What are you planning?" "You're wasting your breath," the rogue leader sneered. "You'll never comprehend the power we seek. The 10 shadows belong to a greater purpose." Naruto felt a chill run down his spine. "What do you mean by that?" "The shadows are more than mere weapons," the rogue leader replied, his tone shifting as a glimmer of madness flickered in his eyes. "They are the key to awakening a power that can reshape the world. You're just a pawn in a larger game." Sakura stepped closer, her resolve hardening. "We're not pawns. We protect our village and our friends. Whatever power you seek, we won't let you have it." The rogue leader leaned back, a smirk playing on his lips. "You think your resolve is enough to stop me? The 10 shadows have a legacy far beyond your comprehension. They were created to control the darkness, not to be wielded by a child like you." Naruto's heart raced, realization dawning on him. "What do you know about the origins of the 10 shadows?" The rogue leader's expression shifted, a flicker of intrigue breaking through his bravado. "You really don't know, do you? The 10 shadows were born from the deepest desires of mankind, the desire for power, control, and fear. They can bring forth an age of darkness, and I intend to be the one to harness that power." "Why do you want that?" Shikamaru asked, his voice steady. "What's your endgame?" "The world is weak, ruled by false heroes," the rogue leader spat, his voice rising in intensity. Only through darkness can we create a new order, a world where the strong reign supreme. Naruto felt anger boil within him. You're wrong. Strength isn't about domination, it's about protecting those we care about. You will understand soon enough, the rogue leader replied ominously, his eyes gleaming with madness. The shadows will rise again, and you will be powerless to stop it. As they exited the interrogation room, the weight of the rogue leader's words hung heavily in the air. The trio gathered in a quiet corner of the facility, deep in thought. That was unsettling, Sakura said, her brow furrowed. He seems to know something we don't about the 10 shadows. We need to dig deeper into this, Shikamaru replied, his mind racing. If he's telling the truth, we have to uncover the history of the shadows before it's too late. Naruto nodded, determination returning to his voice. We can let fear take root. We'll gather more information and figure out how to counter whatever he's planning. With their minds made up, the trio set off to find resources, hoping to uncover more about the origins of the 10 shadows and their connection to the rogue faction. Their first stop was the village library, a vast repository of knowledge and history. As they entered, the musty scent of old books filled the air, and Naruto felt a sense of purpose wash over him. All right, let's split up, Shikamaru suggested. Sakura, you can look for texts on the 10 shadows, and I'll see if there are any records on the rogue faction. Naruto, why don't you check for any ancient scrolls or manuscripts? Got it. Naruto replied, diving into the stacks of books and scrolls. Hours passed as they pored over countless texts. Naruto's excitement grew as he uncovered scrolls detailing ancient techniques, legends, and stories that hinted at the power of the shadows. Hey, I found something. Sakura called out, waving a dusty old scroll in the air. This talks about the creation of the 10 shadows. It says they were originally created to protect against an ancient evil. Naruto rushed over, his curiosity piqued. What does it say? The scroll mentions that the shadows were formed from the desires of humanity, as the rogue leader said, Sakura explained, her eyes scanning the scroll. But it also notes that they can be wielded only by those with pure intentions, those who seek to protect rather than destroy. Shikamaru leaned in, intrigued. So the rogue leader's ambitions may be rooted in misunderstanding. If he seeks power for himself, he may not be able to fully harness the shadows. As they continued to read, they discovered a section that hinted at a hidden repository of knowledge, a sacred place where the original secrets of the 10 shadows were safeguarded. It's called the Shadow Sanctuary, Sakura explained, her eyes wide with excitement. According to this, it's said to hold the true nature of the shadows and how to control their power. Where is it? Naruto asked, his heart racing with anticipation. The scroll indicated that the sanctuary was located deep within the Forest of Death, a place filled with dangers but also the promise of great knowledge. We have to go there, Shikamaru stated, determination in his voice. If we can find the Shadow Sanctuary, we may be able to uncover the means to counter the rogue faction. Naruto's resolve solidified. Let's do it. If we can learn how to wield the shadows properly, we can protect Konoha and everyone we care about. As they prepared for their journey, they understood that they would face numerous challenges ahead. But together, they would confront the darkness and seek the truth about the shadows. With supplies gathered and their minds set, Naruto, Sakura, and Shikamaru made their way toward the ominous entrance of the Forest of Death. The dense trees loomed above them, casting eerie shadows on the ground. Are you sure about this? Sakura asked, a hint of apprehension in her voice. The Forest of Death is known for its dangers. Naruto smiled, trying to reassure her. We've faced danger before. We can handle this together. Shikamaru nodded, though his expression was serious. Stay alert. The deeper we go, the more unpredictable it can become. As they ventured into the forest, the atmosphere shifted. The air grew thick with tension, and the sounds of wildlife faded into an unsettling silence. Each step seemed to echo with the weight of the unknown. Keep an eye out for traps and hidden enemies, Shikamaru advised, scanning the area carefully. The trio moved cautiously, their senses heightened. As they navigated the twisting paths, they encountered various challenges, traps set by rogue shinobi, wild creatures guarding their territory, and the ever-present threat of getting lost in a labyrinth of trees. After hours of navigating the treacherous terrain, they finally stumbled upon a clearing, bathed in a soft, ethereal light. In the center stood an ancient stone structure, covered in vines and moss. "The Shadow's Sanctuary," Sakura whispered, awe evident in her voice. As they approached, the air crackled with energy, and they could feel the shadows around them stirring. Naruto sensed the presence of his shadow allies, their essence resonating with the sanctuary's ancient power. "What do we do now?" he asked, glancing at his friends. "I think we need to enter," Shikamaru replied, looking at the stone archway leading inside. "But we should be prepared for anything." With hearts pounding, they stepped into the sanctuary, the atmosphere shifting dramatically. Shadows danced along the walls, and ancient inscriptions glowed softly, illuminating the chamber. As they ventured deeper, they discovered murals depicting the history of the 10 shadows, their creation, their purpose, and the heroes who had once wielded them to protect the world from darkness. "Look at this!" Sakura exclaimed, pointing to a mural showing a group of shinobi standing together, their shadows united in strength. "It illustrates the bond between the wielders and the shadows." Naruto's heart swelled with hope. "We can do this. If we learn to wield the shadows together, we can overcome any darkness." Suddenly, the ground shook beneath them, and the shadows shifted, forming a barrier around the entrance. A voice echoed through the chamber, resonating with power. "To wield the shadows, you must prove your worth. Face the trials of the sanctuary, and only then will the truth be revealed." Naruto exchanged glances with Sakura and Shikamaru, a mix of determination and apprehension evident in their eyes. "What kind of trials?" he asked, his voice steady. The voice continued, "You will face your fears, your doubts, and the darkness within. Only by overcoming these trials will you unlock the true power of the 10 shadows." "Sounds easy enough," Shikamaru replied, though his expression was serious. "We can't back down now," Naruto declared, stepping forward. "Together, we can face anything." As they prepared for the trials ahead, a sense of camaraderie enveloped them, strengthening their resolve. The shadows around them flickered, as if acknowledging their determination. The shadows around the chamber pulsated with an eerie energy, and as Naruto, Sakura, and Shikamaru stood together, the air thickened with anticipation. The voice echoed once more, deep and commanding, sending chills down their spines. "Prepare yourselves. The first trial begins now." As the words faded, the ground shifted beneath them, and the room transformed. The sanctuary's stone walls dissolved, replaced by a dark forest, shrouded in fog. The familiar sense of Konoha faded, replaced by an unsettling chill. "What is this place?" Sakura asked, her voice trembling. "Looks like the forest we just left," Shikamaru mused, squinting into the mist. "But it feels different." Naruto's resolve solidified. "No matter where we are, we'll face this together. Remember what we learned, we have to confront our fears." With those words, the fog thickened, swirling around them and forming shadows that began to take shape. Dark figures emerged, reflecting their innermost fears. From the shadows, a monstrous version of Naruto appeared, its eyes filled with rage and despair. It roared, the sound echoing through the dark forest, making Naruto's heart race. "Is that me?" he stammered, eyes wide with disbelief. The shadowy claw lunged at him, teeth bared. "You will never be strong enough to protect anyone. You're a failure, just like before." Naruto clenched his fists, feeling the anger and frustration bubble within him. But deep down, he also felt the familiar warmth of hope, the bond with his friends and a village that had shaped him. "No. I'm not a failure," he shouted, his voice steady. "I've overcome my past, and I won't let you define me." As he declared his resolve, a surge of chakra flowed through him. The monstrous shadow hesitated, its form flickering as Naruto focused on the bonds he had forged and the strength he had gained. The dark figure erupted in shadowy wisps, and with each moment, it weakened, until it finally dissolved into nothingness. Sakura and Shikamaru exchanged glances, impressed but also fearful of what lay ahead. "Don't let your guard down," Shikamaru warned. "We still have more to face." As Naruto celebrated his victory, the ground trembled again, and the scene shifted. The fog cleared to reveal a familiar setting, Kanata, bustling with life. But something was off. Shadows loomed over the villagers, their faces twisted in disappointment and despair. In the center stood Sakura, surrounded by her parents, Tsunade, and her teammates, all looking at her with expressions of disapproval. "You'll never be as strong as Tsunade," her parents said in unison, their voices dripping with disappointment. "You'll always be a burden to your friends." Sakura felt her heart sink, the weight of their words pressing down on her. "No. I've trained hard. I can do this," she protested, tears brimming in her eyes. But the shadows closed in, amplifying her insecurities. "You're just pretending to be strong. You'll never measure up." In that moment, she remembered the journey she had taken, the training, the sacrifices, and the friendships she had forged. With a deep breath, she steeled herself, recalling the moments that had shaped her. "I am not my past. I've grown stronger, not just for myself but for everyone I care about," she shouted, her voice fierce. As she spoke, a bright light enveloped her, dispelling the shadows. The faces of her friends appeared, encouraging her, reminding her of the strength she had cultivated through their bonds. "I won't let my fears hold me back," she declared, breaking free from the chains of doubt. With that, the dark figures melted away, and Konoha returned to its vibrant state, leaving Sakura standing victorious. As the scene faded, Shikamaru found himself alone, standing on a barren landscape where the sky was overcast, and the ground was scorched. Shadows gathered around him, morphing into a ghostly figure resembling his mother, her expression somber. "Why do you always take the easy way out?" she asked, her voice echoing with disappointment. "You're smarter than this, Shikamaru. You could save so many lives, yet you choose to sit back." Shikamaru felt a wave of guilt wash over him. He often preferred to avoid conflict, but deep inside, he knew he had the potential to lead and protect. "You can't keep running away from your responsibilities," the shadowy figure continued. "What will happen to your friends if you don't step up? Stop it," Shikamaru shouted, frustration bubbling over. "I've done what I can, but I can't bear the weight of the world on my shoulders." The shadow grew closer, its presence suffocating. Shikamaru clenched his fists, realizing that his avoidance wasn't an option anymore. "I've always known I had to be strong for my friends," he said, determination burning in his chest. "But strength doesn't mean I have to do everything alone. I can count on my teammates, and together we can face any threat." As his resolve crystallized, the shadow of his mother dissolved, and the sky brightened. The barren landscape transformed into a vibrant scene filled with laughter and light, the warmth of camaraderie and unity. As the three friends regrouped, the shadows retreated, and the sanctuary began to shift once more. They found themselves in a vast hall filled with ancient runes and symbols, representing the history of the 10 shadows. "You've faced your fears and proven your strength," the voice of the sanctuary resonated. "Now, for the final test, you must bond your strengths together. Only through unity can the true power of the 10 shadows be unlocked." The runes on the walls began to glow, and the trio felt an overwhelming energy surround them. A circle of shadows formed at their feet, swirling and intertwining. "We can do this together," Naruto exclaimed, focusing on the connection between them. Sakura and Shikamaru nodded, closing their eyes and reaching out to one another. Their hearts beat in sync, fueled by the bonds they had forged over years of friendship and struggle. As they concentrated, the shadows danced around them, intertwining their energies. The sanctuary filled with a brilliant light, illuminating the room as the runes pulsed with life. "Let the power of the shadows bind you together," the voice boomed. In a whirlwind of energy, the shadows coalesced, forming a magnificent emblem, a symbol of their unity and strength. The warmth enveloped them, filling them with knowledge and understanding of the 10 shadows. As the light faded, they stood in awe of what had transpired. The knowledge of the shadows now flowed within them, and they could feel the connection to the power they had unlocked. What just happened? Sakura asked, breathing heavily. We faced our trials and emerged stronger, Shikamaru replied, a smile spreading across his face. We've unlocked the true potential of the 10 shadows. Naruto clenched his fists, energy surging through him. This is just the beginning. With this power, we can protect Konoha and everyone we care about. As they shared a moment of triumph, the shadows whispered around them, a reminder of the strength they had gained through their struggles and the bonds that would continue to guide them. As Naruto, Sakura, and Shikamaru stepped out of the Shadow Sanctuary, the vibrant forest of the Land of Fire greeted them. The warmth of the sun bathed their faces, contrasting sharply with the darkness they had just confronted. Each of them felt a renewed sense of purpose, the lessons learned and the power gained from the trials coursing through their veins. Did we really unlock the true potential of the 10 shadows? Sakura asked, glancing at her friends with wide eyes. I can feel it, Naruto replied, a grin spreading across his face. We're stronger than ever. With this power, we can take on any threat. Shikamaru nodded, though a contemplative look crossed his face. We need to be cautious. The rogue faction won't sit idle after their last defeat. They'll likely be plotting something even more dangerous now that they know we're a threat. Then we need to get back to Konoha and inform everyone about what we discovered, Sakura said, determination hardening her expression. We can't let them catch us off guard. As they made their way back through the forest, the bond between them felt stronger than ever. They shared stories, laughter, and hopes for the future, each moment reinforcing their commitment to protect Konoha and each other. Upon reaching Konoha, they found the village bustling with activity. The reconstruction efforts were well underway, and the villagers greeted them with smiles and waves. Naruto's heart swelled with pride and determination. He could feel the love and warmth of his home surrounding him. Once they reached the Hokage's office, they were met by Tsunade, who was poring over reports. Her eyes lit up upon seeing them. You're back. I trust the mission was successful. Yes, Lady Tsunade, Naruto replied, his excitement bubbling over. We unlocked the true potential of the 10 shadows. Tsunade raised an eyebrow, intrigued. What do you mean? Explain everything. As they shared the details of their trials in the Shadow Sanctuary, Tsunade listened intently. So, you believe that the shadows can be harnessed for protection rather than destruction? Sakura nodded. Yes. We learned that the shadows can amplify our strength, but only when we're united and have pure intentions. Shikamaru crossed his arms, looking serious. We also need to prepare for the rogue faction's next move. They are likely plotting something big, and we can't afford to be caught off guard again. Tsunade sighed, her expression turning grave. You're right. I've been receiving reports of strange movements in the surrounding areas. It seems they are gathering forces, and we need to act fast. Naruto's determination surged. We'll gather everyone and form a strategy. We can't let them threaten our home again. The next day, the trio set out to gather their friends and allies for a meeting. They called upon the various clans and shinobi from across Konoha, filling the main hall with familiar faces. Shikamaru took the lead, organizing the gathering. Listen up, everyone. Shikamaru said, his voice steady and authoritative. We've received intel that the rogue faction is mobilizing, and we need to prepare ourselves. Naruto, Sakura, and I have unlocked new powers from the 10 shadows, and we need everyone's strength to counter whatever they are planning. The murmurs of concern rippled through the crowd. Koji raised his hand. What do we know about their movements? We've heard reports of them gathering in the Land of Rivers, Sakura replied. We suspect they are trying to consolidate their forces. Kakashi stepped forward, his calm demeanor a reassuring presence. Then we must gather our own forces. If they are amassing, we need to intercept them before they can launch an attack on Konoha. Naruto felt a rush of determination. Then it's settled. We'll form a coalition of shinobi and head to the land of rivers. Together, we'll protect our home. As the meeting progressed, strategies were discussed, alliances forged, and plans set into motion. Each shinobi brought their unique skills to the table, reinforcing the bonds of friendship that had grown through countless battles and shared struggles. The next day, preparations began in earnest. Naruto, Sakura, and Shikamaru organized training sessions, helping others learn to harness the energy of the 10 shadows alongside their own abilities. During one of the training sessions, Naruto found himself sparring with Sasuke, their movements fluid and synchronized. They pushed each other to their limits, each exchanged a reminder of their shared history and friendship. "Looks like you've been training hard, Naruto," Sasuke remarked, dodging a punch and countering with a swift kick. "Of course. We can't let the rogue faction win," Naruto replied, determination lighting up his blue eyes. "We've got something to protect." As their training continued, word spread throughout Konoha, and shinobi from various villages began to arrive, drawn by the thread of the rogue faction. Among them were old friends and allies, each bringing their strength and resolve. One evening, as the sun began to set, the main hall was filled with laughter and camaraderie as everyone shared stories and prepared for the upcoming battle. Suddenly, the door swung open, and a familiar figure stepped in. "Hey, Naruto," a loud voice called out, echoing through the hall. Naruto turned, his eyes widening with joy. "Ino. You're back." Ino approached, flanked by her teammates Shikamaru and Koji. "You didn't think we'd let you take on this threat without us, did you?" "Of course not," Naruto replied, his heart swelling with gratitude. "It's good to see you. With everyone here, we'll be unstoppable." As the night wore on, more familiar faces arrived, including the Nara, Yamanaka, and Akimichi clans. Their unity was a testament to the bonds forged in battle and friendship. Just as the celebration reached its peak, a shadowy figure emerged at the entrance, cloaked in darkness. Gasps filled the room as the figure stepped forward, revealing a messenger from the land of rivers. "Please. I come with urgent news," the messenger gasped, clearly exhausted from travel. "The rogue faction is planning an attack on your village. They aim to strike within 3 days." The room fell silent as the weight of the message sank in. Naruto felt the air grow heavy with tension, and the sense of impending danger loomed over them. Tsunade stepped forward, her expression serious. "We'll have to accelerate our plans. We need to fortify our defenses and prepare for battle." The messenger nodded. "They have also recruited powerful allies, dark forces that may prove difficult to face." Naruto clenched his fists, the determination burning in his chest. "Then we'll train harder and stand united. We won't let them take away what we've built." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over Konoha, the atmosphere in the village shifted from one of celebration to one of steely resolve. The shinobi gathered in the training grounds, their expressions serious as they prepared for the battle that loomed ahead. Naruto stood at the front of the assembled shinobi, heart racing with adrenaline. The air buzzed with a mix of anxiety and determination, and he could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. "Listen up, everyone," he called out, his voice cutting through the chatter. "We've trained hard, and now it's time to show the rogue faction what we're made of. We've faced challenges before, and we've always come out stronger together." Cheers erupted from the crowd, the sound echoing in the crisp evening air. Naruto smiled, his confidence bolstered by the support of his friends and allies. "Let's put everything we've learned about the 10 shadows to the test," he continued. "This is our chance to protect our home and everyone we care about. We won't let fear stop us." Sakura stepped forward, her determination matching Naruto's. "We've all worked hard to harness the power of our shadows. Remember, our bonds are our greatest strength. If we fight together, we can overcome any darkness." Shikamaru nodded, his strategic mind already at work. "We'll need to divide our forces to maximize our strength. Let's set up scouting teams and defenses around the village. We can't afford any surprises." The next few days flew by as the shinobi of Konoha set to work, forming alliances and preparing for the impending conflict. Teams were formed, each responsible for a different aspect of defense and offense. Naruto, Sakura, and Shikamaru found themselves at the center of planning, coordinating efforts with their friends and allies. As they mapped out their strategy in the war room, they were joined by familiar faces: Kakashi, Hinata, Neji, and the rest of Team 10. The camaraderie was palpable, their bonds strengthened by the shared determination to protect their home. Kakashi leaned back in his chair, his expression contemplative. We need to anticipate their moves. If they are planning an attack, they won't strike without a strategy of their own. Neji nodded, his Bikudan activated. I can scout the surrounding areas. We need to be aware of any movements or unusual activity. Good idea, Shikamaru replied. We'll also need to set up defensive positions around the village, especially at the entrances. We can't let them breach our defenses. Naruto felt a surge of pride as he looked around the room at his friends, their determination shining through. Let's make sure everyone knows their roles. We need to be ready for anything. As plans solidified, a knock at the door interrupted their meeting. It swung open to reveal Ino, who rushed in with a determined expression. Naruto. You need to see this, she exclaimed, holding a scroll in her hands. Naruto raised an eyebrow, curiosity piqued. What is it? Ino unfurled the scroll, revealing intricate markings and symbols. I intersected a message from the rogue faction. They are gathering powerful allies, dark forces that could shift the tide of battle. Sakura leaned in, scanning the scroll. What kind of allies? They've been rumored to have made contact with various rogue ninjas, including those with forbidden jutsu, Ino explained, worry evident in her voice. If they succeed in rallying these forces, it could be disastrous for us. Kakashi's eyes narrowed as he examined the scroll. We need to act quickly. We can't let them solidify these alliances. Naruto felt a chill run down his spine. Then we'll confront them. We can't let them build their power without a fight. The next day, they split into teams to gather information about the rogue faction's movements. Naruto, Sakura, and Shikamaru teamed up with Hinata and Neji to scout the area surrounding Kanata. As they moved stealthily through the woods, Neji used his Bikudan to scan the vicinity. There's a group up ahead, he said quietly. It looks like they are planning something. Naruto nodded, his heart pounding. Let's get closer and see what they are saying. They crept through the underbrush, staying hidden as they observed the gathering of rogue ninjas. The air crackled with tension as they overheard snippets of conversation. We'll strike Kanata at dawn, one rogue ninja said, his voice low and threatening. They are vulnerable right now, and with our new allies, we'll crush them. Naruto's fists clenched in anger. We have to warn everyone. We can't let them attack while we are unprepared. Wait, Shikamaru whispered, eyes narrowed in thought. We need to gather more information. We can't let them know we're here. As they continued to eavesdrop, they learned more about the rogue faction's plans, including details about their allies and the strategies they intended to employ. With each piece of information they gathered, the urgency to return to Kana intensified. Once they returned to the village, they immediately convened with the rest of the shinobi to share their findings. The atmosphere in the war room was tense, the reality of their situation sinking in. We have less than a day to prepare, Shikamaru said, looking around the room. We need to strengthen our defenses and create a plan to counter their attack. Kakashi nodded. We'll set up traps at the village entrances. Our shinobi will be stationed throughout the village, ready to respond to any breaches. Also, Sakura added, we need to ensure that everyone is aware of the situation. We can't let fear spread through the village. Everyone must remain focused. Naruto felt a rush of determination as he surveyed the room filled with resolute faces. We've faced worse challenges before, and we've always come out on top. Let's show them what we're made of. With their resolve fortified, the shinobi of Konoha sprang into action, moving swiftly to implement their strategy. The sun began to set, casting long shadows over the village, a stark reminder of the darkness they were about to face. As night fell, The atmosphere grew heavier with anticipation. Naruto, Sakura, Shikamaru, and their allies gathered one last time in the war room, a final briefing before the impending battle. "We know the enemy's plan and their intentions," Shikamaru said, addressing the group. "Our priority is to defend the village and protect our people. We need to stay focused and united." Sakura looked around, her eyes shining with determination. "Together, we can face anything. Let's remember what we're fighting for." Naruto stepped forward, his voice ringing with conviction. "For our friends, for our village, and for our future. We won't let them take away what we've built." The room erupted with cheers, the sense of camaraderie and determination igniting a fire within each shinobi. They were ready to face whatever came their way. The night passed slowly, tension gripping Konoha like a vice. Every rustle of leaves or distant sound sent chills down the spines of the shinobi gathered in the village. Naruto, unable to sleep, stood atop the Hokage monument, gazing out over the village he loved so deeply. The dawn of battle loomed on the horizon, and he could feel the weight of the responsibility on his shoulders. As the first light of day broke, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Naruto took a deep breath, grounding himself. He had trained for this moment, pushed his limits, and grown stronger alongside his friends. There was no backing down now. The alarm rings. Just as the sun began to rise, a sudden alarm echoed through the village, sharp and piercing, a harbinger of the chaos to come. The village's watchtower sent signals, warning everyone of the impending attack. "Everyone, to your positions!" Naruto shouted, rallying the shinobi around him. He could see his friends, their faces set in determination, ready to fight for their home. As the shinobi mobilized, Naruto felt the familiar warmth of the tense shadows stirring within him. He focused on that entity, summoning the shadows to his side. Each one flickered to life, ready to aid him in the coming battle. In the distance, a dark cloud approached, figures moving in unison, clad in ominous black cloaks. The rogue faction had arrived, and the ground trembled beneath their feet as they marched toward Konoha, their intentions clear. Naruto squinted against the sunlight, trying to make out their faces. The air thickened with tension, and he could sense the malice radiating from the approaching group. "Here they come!" Sakura shouted, her eyes sharp and focused. "We need to hold the line." The shinobi positioned themselves at the village's entrances, ready to defend against the onslaught. As the rogue faction drew closer, the sound of their footsteps reverberated like a war drum, amplifying the anxiety that hung in the air. "Remember what we trained for," Shikamaru called out, his voice steady despite the tension. "Stay focused and coordinated. We can't let them break through our defenses." Naruto nodded, his resolve solidifying. For Konoha. As the two forces collided, the sound of battle erupted, a cacophony of shouts, jutsu, and the clash of kunai and shuriken filled the air. Naruto summoned the shadows to his side, feeling their power surge through him. He unleashed a barrage of shadow clones, each one weaving through the chaos, engaging the enemy. "Shadow clone jutsu!" Naruto shouted, a grin spreading across his face as dozens of clones sprang into existence. They surged forward, diving into the fray, attacking with renewed vigor. Sakura fought alongside Naruto, her fists flying as she unleashed powerful blows on the rogue ninjas. "We can't let them overwhelm us," she shouted, a fierce determination in her eyes. As the battle raged on, Shikamaru used his shadow manipulation to ensnare rogue ninjas, rendering them immobile. "Now, Koji," he called, signaling his friend. With a loud shout, Koji charged forward, his body expanding as he unleashed his full Baiken no Jutsu, barreling through the enemy lines like a living cannonball. "Let's show them what Konoha is made of," Ino shouted, launching a barrage of mind-based jutsu, incapacitating several rogue ninjas with her powerful techniques. As the fighting intensified, Naruto caught sight of familiar faces in the midst of the chaos. Kakashi and Tsunade fought back-to-back, seamlessly working together. Neji darted through the crowd, using his Bikudan to pinpoint weaknesses in the enemy ranks. "Keep an eye on the ones with the forbidden jutsu," Kakashi warned, spotting a group of rogue ninjas wielding dark chakra. They are likely to have powerful techniques. Naruto nodded, summoning a massive shadow beast to his side. Let's take them out. He launched the shadow forward, smashing into the group of rogue ninjas. The impact sent several of them flying, creating a brief opening in their ranks. As Naruto and his friends pushed forward, the rogue faction began to retaliate, their techniques unleashing destructive blasts that tore through the battlefield. Explosions wrought the ground, sending debris flying, and the air filled with smoke and chaos. Just as it seemed the tide of battle was shifting in Konoha's favor, a new figure emerged from the shadows, a tall, imposing figure clad in black armor, radiating dark energy. "Foolish shinobi," the figure growled, his voice deep and menacing. "You think you can protect this village? Your efforts are in vain." Naruto felt a shiver run down his spine. This man radiated power, and he could sense the malice emanating from him. "Who are you?" Naruto demanded, stepping forward, shadows swirling around him as he prepared to fight. "I am Kurose, the harbinger of chaos," the figure replied, his eyes gleaming with malevolence. "And today, Konoha will fall." Kurose raised his hand, dark chakras swirling around him as he unleashed a wave of energy that crashed into the Konoha defenders. The blast sent several shinobi flying, their bodies slamming against the ground. Naruto grit his teeth, determination flaring within him. "We won't let you destroy our home." Summoning the full might of the 10 shadows, Naruto charged forward, his shadows swirling around him like a storm. "Shadow clone jutsu," he shouted, creating a massive army of clones that surged toward Kurose. "Foolish boy." Kurose sneered, raising his hand. A dark barrier formed around him, absorbing the impact of the clones. "You think mere numbers can defeat me?" Naruto gritted his teeth, frustration boiling within him. "Then I'll show you what true strength is." With that, he channeled the energy of the 10 shadows, feeling the power surge through him. The shadows transformed into a massive dragon, its eyes glowing with intensity as it lunged toward Kurose. "Let's go!" Naruto shouted, leading the charge as the dragon collided with Kurose's dark barrier, the force of the impact creating shockwaves that rippled through the battlefield. Meanwhile, the other shinobi continued to fight valiantly against the rogue faction. Sakura and Ino coordinated their attacks, taking down enemies with precision and teamwork. "Now, Ino!" Sakura shouted, signaling for Ino to unleash her mind techniques. With a determined look, Ino focused her chakra. "Mind transfer jutsu," she shouted, sending her consciousness into the body of an enemy ninja, taking control of him. "Now turn on your allies," Ino commanded, and the rogue ninja turned his weapon against his own comrades, creating chaos within their ranks. "Nice move," Sakura praised, sending a powerful punch that sent the rogue ninja flying. As the battle raged on, each shinobi utilized their unique skills, forming a united front against the rogue faction. Together, they fought fiercely, refusing to back down. As Naruto clashed with Kurose, the battle seemed to hang in a balance. Kurose retaliated, sending dark energy blasts that clashed against Naruto's shadows, creating explosive bursts of energy that lit up the battlefield. Naruto could feel the shadows responding to his will, pushing back against Kurose's dark power. "We're not going to lose," he shouted, determination blazing in his eyes. Kurose sneered, his power intensifying. "You think your resolve can stand against me? I will shatter your hopes." Just then, a surge of chakra erupted from Konoha's defenders as they rallied together, their resolve strengthening in a face of despair. "Everyone, fight together!" Shikamaru called out, his voice cutting through the chaos. "We can do this!" The shinobi began to synchronize their attacks, combining their powers to form a wave of energy that surged toward Kurose. With their combined strength, Naruto felt the 10 shadows responding, amplifying their power. "Let's finish this," he shouted, charging forward with his friends at his side. As they closed in on Kurose, the figure's expression shifted from arrogance to shock. "No. This is impossible." The shadows coalesced around Naruto, forming a massive sphere of energy. 10 shadows, unified assault, he declared, launching the sphere toward Kurose. The impact was cataclysmic. The energy collided with Kurose, the explosion illuminating the battlefield as the rogue faction reeled from the force of the attack. When the smoke cleared, Kurose lay defeated, the dark energy dissipating into the air. The rogue faction, witnessing their leader's defeat, faltered and began to retreat. Cheers erupted from the shinobi as they rallied, pressing forward to drive the remaining enemies away from Kanata. "We did it!" Naruto shouted, relief flooding through him. The sun shone down on the battlefield, illuminating the victorious shinobi, their bonds strengthened through the trials they had faced. In the aftermath of the battle, the sun rose brightly over Kanata, casting a warm glow over the village. The air was filled with the sounds of reconstruction hammering, chatter, and the occasional laughter of children, a stark contrast to the chaos of the previous day. Naruto stood among the rubble of what had once been a bustling marketplace, watching as the villagers worked together to restore their home. He felt a mixture of pride and exhaustion as he surveyed the scene. They had triumphed, but the scars of battle were still fresh. "We did it, didn't we?" Sakura said, approaching him with a warm smile. She brushed a strand of hair away from her face, smudged with dust. "We defended our home." "Yeah," Naruto replied, a grin breaking across his face. "But there's still so much to do." As they walked through the village, Naruto couldn't help but notice the camaraderie among the villagers. Friends and families worked side by side, the bonds of Konoha growing stronger in the face of adversity. Later that day, a memorial service was held for those who had fallen during the battle. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows as villagers gathered at the memorial stone, each one paying their respects. Naruto stood at the front, flanked by his friends. A heavy weight settled in his chest as he remembered the faces of those who had lost their lives. They had fought valiantly, and their sacrifice would not be forgotten. Sakura placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "We honor them by continuing to protect this village," she said softly. Naruto nodded, determination settling in. "I promise, we'll make sure their sacrifice wasn't in vain." As the villagers shared their stories and memories, Naruto felt a renewed sense of purpose. He would not only lead Konoha in times of crisis but also foster a community where everyone felt safe and valued. In the days that followed, Naruto convened a meeting with the village leaders to discuss the implications of the rogue faction's attack and the newfound powers of the Ten Shadows. As he sat at the head of the table, surrounded by his friends and mentors, Naruto felt a rush of responsibility. "We need to address the threat posed by rogue factions," he began, looking around at the assembled faces: Kakashi, Shikamaru, Sakura, and others. "They may have been defeated this time, but there's no guarantee they won't try again." Kakashi leaned back in his chair, contemplating. "We should strengthen our alliances with other villages. Sharing information and resources will make us all stronger." "I agree," Shikamaru added, folding his arms. "We can't afford to be caught off guard again. We need to gather intel on rogue ninjas and their movements." "Let's also focus on training," Sakura suggested. "With the power of the Ten Shadows, we have a unique advantage. We should refine our skills to better utilize that strength in future battles." Naruto nodded, feeling a sense of unity among his friends. "Then let's set up a training program. Everyone needs to be prepared for whatever comes next." In the following weeks, Naruto dedicated himself to mastering the Ten Shadows' power. He trained relentlessly, pushing himself to unlock new techniques and hone his control over the shadows. One afternoon, he found himself in a secluded area of the training grounds, surrounded by a cluster of trees. With deep concentration, he summoned his shadows, watching as they morphed and twisted in the air. "Come on, guys. Show me what you've got," he encouraged, focusing on his connection to the shadows. He could feel the energy pulsing within him, a force of nature that he was just beginning to understand. As he practiced, he attempted to summon multiple shadow beasts at once, aiming to create a large formation that could be utilized in battle. The shadows flickered and danced around him, growing stronger as he maintained his focus. "Great. Just a little more," he muttered to himself, sweat beading on his forehead. With a final push, he felt a surge of energy as several shadow beasts emerged, forming a formidable line. Yeah. That's it. Naruto exclaimed, grinning with excitement. The thrill of power surged through him, a heady rush that made him feel invincible. While training one day, Naruto was surprised to see a familiar figure approaching. It was Gari, the Kazekage of Tsunade, a longtime ally and friend. Gaara. What brings you here? Naruto called out, wiping the sweat from his brow. Gaara regarded him with his usual calm demeanor. I wanted to see how you were faring after the battle. The news of your victory has spread throughout the villages. Naruto's grin widened. We pulled through. But there's still a lot to do. We've been strengthening our defenses and training hard. I'm glad to hear that, Gaara replied, a hint of a smile on his lips. I have come to propose an alliance between our villages. The threat of rogue factions is growing, and we must stand united. Naruto's heart swelled with determination. Absolutely. With our combined strength, we can face anything. Gaara nodded. I'll be sending envoys to Konoha to discuss the details further. Together, we can build a stronger future. As the weeks turned into months, the village began to flourish once more. However, the shadow of potential threats lingered. Despite their victory over the rogue faction, whispers of a darker organization began to surface, one that sought to gather powerful ninjas from across the land. Rumors spread of a figure known as the Puppeteer, a mastermind behind several rogue factions, manipulating events from the shadows. Naruto convened another meeting with his friends and allies to discuss the emerging threat. We can't ignore this. If the Puppeteer is gathering forces, we need to act fast. Shikamaru leaned forward, his brows furrowed in thought. We should send scouts to gather information on this organization. The more we know, the better prepared we'll be. We should also increase training sessions, Sakura added. We can't afford to lose anyone else. We need to be ready for anything. Naruto nodded, the fire of determination igniting within him. I won't let anyone threaten our home again. We'll fight together. Days turned into weeks as the shinobi worked tirelessly to gather intel on the Puppeteer. A few scouts returned with unsettling reports, detailing strange gatherings and sightings of powerful rogue ninjas. As Naruto trained with his shadows, he felt a growing unease in the pit of his stomach. He knew that danger was approaching, and they had to be ready. During one training session, he summoned the shadows and felt a shift in the energy around him. It was as if the shadows were communicating with him, urging him to dig deeper into their potential. What is it? He murmured, closing his eyes as he focused on the whispers of the shadows. Show me what you can do. Suddenly, he was enveloped in darkness, visions swirling before him. He saw glimpses of a hidden lair, filled with rogue figures discussing their plans. The Puppeteer stood at the center, his presence commanding. Naruto's heart raced as he witnessed the brewing storm of chaos. I have to warn everyone, he shouted, breaking free from the vision. Gathering his friends, Naruto shared the visions he had experienced. The gravity of the situation settled over them like a thick fog. We need to move quickly, Shikamaru said, his voice steady. If the Puppeteer is gathering forces, we can't afford to let them gain any ground. Sakura nodded, her expression fierce. We'll split into teams to gather more intel. The more we know, the better prepared we'll be. Himeda, you and Niji should scout the outskirts of the village, Naruto suggested. Gather any information you can on rogue movements. As the teams formed, Naruto felt the weight of leadership resting heavily on his shoulders. He could sense the determination of his friends, and he knew they would face whatever came next together. As the sun set over Konoha, shadows lengthened, casting an ominous tone over the village. With the threat of the Puppeteer looming, the shinobi prepared for the battles yet to come. With each passing day, the urgency to confront this new enemy grew. Konoha was strong, but with each challenge, Naruto understood the importance of unity, trust, and friendship. As he gazed out over the village, he felt a familiar surge of energy from the tense shadows within him, ready to stand against whatever darkness awaited. Whatever happens, we'll face it together, he vowed to himself, determination igniting his spirit. The future was uncertain, but with his friends at his side, he was ready to embrace it. The following days in Konoha were characterized by a frenetic energy as each team set out to gather information on the puppeteer. Naruto and his friends split into pairs, determined to uncover the truth behind the growing threat. Sakura and Ino took to the eastern outskirts of the village, using their skills to extract information from local merchants who might have seen anything unusual. Meanwhile, Shikamaru and Koji infiltrated a nearby tavern, hoping to eavesdrop on rogue ninjas who frequented the establishment. Naruto paired with Sasuke, their friendship forged through trials and battles. "We'll head toward the forest," Naruto said, determination blazing in his blue eyes. "If the puppeteer is gathering forces, he might be hiding out there." "Agreed," Sasuke replied, his expression serious. "We need to stay low and observe." As they ventured into the forest, Naruto felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety. The tense shadows within him seemed restless, urging him to push forward. They moved cautiously, eyes peeled for any signs of movement. After several hours of tracking, the duo stumbled upon a clearing hidden among the trees. In the center stood a makeshift camp, flickering campfires illuminating the shadows of hooded figures. "Looks like we've found something," Sasuke whispered, gesturing toward the encampment. Naruto nodded, his heart racing. "Let's get closer." As they crept forward, Naruto strained to hear the hushed conversations. The figures exchanged snippets of information, their voices laced with malice. "The puppeteer is waiting for the right moment to strike," one figure whispered, his tone urgent. "We need to gather more power before we can proceed." "Patience. Soon, Konoha will fall, and we'll have our revenge," another replied, a sinister edge to his voice. Naruto exchanged a glance with Sasuke. They were on the right track, and they needed to gather as much information as possible. Just as Naruto prepared to eavesdrop further, a twig snapped beneath his foot, breaking the stillness of the air. "Who's there?" one of the hooded figures snapped, suspicion creeping into his voice. "Run!" Sasuke hissed, instinctively grabbing Naruto's arm as they dashed back into the underbrush. The camp erupted into chaos, shadows swirling as figures began to pursue them. "After them!" "Don't let them escape," shouted the leader of the rogue ninjas, his voice booming with authority. Heart pounding, Naruto summoned his shadows to aid in their escape. "10 shadows, assist us," he shouted, feeling the energy surge through him. The shadows surged forward, creating barriers to slow down their pursuers as Naruto and Sasuke darted deeper into the forest. "Keep moving," Sasuke urged, glancing back to see the figures struggling against the shadows. "We need to report back." After what felt like an eternity, Naruto and Sasuke finally broke free from the forest and dashed into Konoha. They made their way to the Hokish's office, where the tension was palpable. "We've found a camp," Naruto exclaimed, breathless as he burst into the room. "They are gathering forces for the puppeteer?" Kakashi, who was discussing plans with the other village leaders, turned to them with concern. "What did you see?" "They are planning something big," Sasuke replied, his eyes sharp. "They mentioned waiting for the right moment to strike, and their leader is ruthless." Shikamaru's brow furrowed. "We need to prepare for an imminent attack. They might have numbers on their side." "Everyone, gather the shinobi," Naruto commanded, his voice resolute. "We need to form a strategy and fortify our defenses." As the village leaders called for a meeting, Naruto felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. He understood the gravity of the situation, and the stakes were higher than ever. The room filled with shinobi from across the village, each one ready to protect their home. "We've learned that the puppeteer is actively gathering forces," Naruto began, addressing the room. "We need to prepare for an attack. This time, we'll be ready. Let's focus on reinforcing the village's defenses," Kakashi suggested. "We need to ensure that every entry point is protected." "I'll lead a team to the northern gates," Shikamaru volunteered. "We'll set up traps and barriers to slow them down." Hinata, Can you use your Bikudan to scout ahead? Sakura asked. We need to gather as much intel as possible. Himeda nodded, her expression determined. I'll keep an eye on their movements and alert everyone if they approach. With each shinobi contributing their skills and strategies, Naruto felt a sense of unity in the room. They would face this threat together, standing as one. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Naruto found himself standing atop the Hokage monument again, looking out over Konoha. The village sparkled in the twilight, a beautiful reminder of what they were fighting for. Sasuke joined him, leaning against the stone. You've come a long ways since we were kids, he said, his voice low. Yeah, I guess I have, Naruto replied, a hint of nostalgia creeping in. But it's not just me. We're all in this together. Sasuke nodded, glancing toward the village. We've faced our share of challenges. But this, it feels different. Yeah, Naruto said, looking back toward the village. But I won't let fear control us. We're going to fight, and we're going to win. As night fell, the village settled into a tense calm. Shinobi stood guard, eyes scanning the surroundings, ready for whatever might come. In his heart, Naruto could feel the pulse of the tense shadows, a comforting presence that reminded him of the strength within him. He was no longer just a boy with a dream, he was a leader, a protector of Konoha. Suddenly, a distant rumble echoed through the air, shaking the ground beneath them. The alarm bells began to ring, piercing the silence of the night. Get ready. Naruto shouted, adrenaline coursing through his veins. It's time. As the gates of Konoha opened to reveal a swarm of rogue ninjas, Naruto and the other shinobi stood ready, the air thick with anticipation. The villagers, sensing the tension, watched from behind the safety of the walls. Hold the line. Shikamaru shouted, signaling the shinobi to take their positions. Naruto felt the shadows swirling around him, ready for action. Let's show them the strength of Konoha. As the rogue ninjas surged forward, Naruto summoned a wave of shadow clones, their faces filled with determination. Shadow clone jutsu. The clones rushed forward, engaging the enemy with a fervor that echoed through the battlefield. Naruto felt the energy of the shadows growing stronger, responding to his will. The clash of kunai and shuriken rang through the night as both sides engaged in fierce combat. Naruto's clones swarmed the rogue ninjas, striking with precision, while Shikamaru's traps ensnared enemies, buying time for their allies. Now, Sakura? Naruto called, signaling for her to unleash her strength. Sakura dashed forward, her fists flying as she incapacitated rogue ninjas with her powerful punches. We won't let you through, she shouted, determination burning in her eyes. Sasuke moved with agility, his Sharingan activated as he executed lightning-fast techniques, cutting through the enemy ranks. Stay focused, he urged, his tone commanding. Naruto felt a surge of energy within him as he summoned the shadows, forming massive beasts that crashed into the rogue ninjas, scattering them like leaves in the wind. Just as it seemed the tide was turning in Konoha's favor, a new figure emerged from the shadows, a tall, imposing figure with a hood that concealed their face. It's time to show you the true power of the puppeteer, the figure declared, their voice echoing through the chaos. Naruto's heart raced as he felt the oppressive energy emanating from the figure. Who are you? He demanded, stepping forward, shadows swirling protectively around him. The figure pulled back their hood, revealing a face that sent a chill down Naruto's spine. It was a familiar face, one he never expected to see again. I am Uchiha Itachi, the figure said, a smirk playing on his lips. And I am here to reclaim what was lost. The battlefield froze as Naruto stood face to face with Uchiha Itachi, a figure once cloaked in mystery and tragedy. Memories flooded back, bittersweet and painful. The man who had once been his enemy was now a specter of the past, and Naruto's heart raced with confusion. Itachi? Is it really you? Naruto shouted, disbelief mixing with anger. What are you doing here? Itachi's expression remained calm, his dark eyes piercing through the chaos. I have returned not as a foe but as a harbinger of a new order, he stated, his voice steady and resonant. "The world is changing, Naruto, and I have a role to play." Naruto clenched his fists, shadows coiling around him protectively. "You have no place here. We've fought too hard to let you manipulate things again." The rogue ninjas paused, some eyeing their leader warily. Itachi raised a hand, silencing them. "You misunderstand my purpose. I do not seek chaos for chaos's sake. I am here to bring about a vision that will unite the shinobi world." "Unite?" Naruto shouted incredulously. "You call this an alliance? You've only brought destruction." "It's the price of progress," Itachi replied coolly, his gaze unwavering. "The puppeteer understands the intricacies of this world better than anyone else. He has a plan to eradicate the cycle of hatred." "What does that even mean?" Naruto demanded, frustration boiling over. "You think you can just impose your will on everyone? That's not unity, that's tyranny." Sasuke stepped forward, a deep frown on his face. "If you're truly trying to bring change, you know that this isn't the way to do it. You're still fighting shadows, Itachi." The tension thickened in the air as Naruto and Sasuke stood united against the man who had once been their enemy but was now entwined in the fabric of their past. "It seems we're at an impasse," Itachi said, an unreadable expression on his face. "If you oppose me, then I will be forced to demonstrate the power of the puppeteer's vision." Naruto's heart raced as he felt the atmosphere shift. "Don't underestimate us. We've faced worse than you." Suddenly, Itachi gestured, and the rogue ninjas surged forward, but Naruto was ready. "10 shadows, protect us," he commanded, unleashing a wave of dark energy that formed shadow beasts to counter the attackers. The shadows lunged forward, clashing with the rogue ninjas in a chaotic flurry. Naruto felt the exhilarating rush of power as he summoned more beasts, each one a manifestation of his will, fighting alongside him and his friends. "Let's go, Sasuke!" Naruto shouted, charging into the fray, determined to confront the men who had haunted their past. Sasuke nodded, darting past Naruto, and together they fought their way through the enemy ranks, striking down rogue ninjas left and right. Their bond, forged through struggle and pain, fueled their strength. While the battle raged around them, Itachi observed with a cold detachment. "You're strong, Naruto. Stronger than I ever anticipated. But your strength alone will not change the world." Naruto paused for a moment, dodging an attack. "If you believe that, then you're wrong. It's our bonds that give us strength. It's naive to think bonds can solve everything," Itachi countered, stepping back to observe the chaos. "The world is filled with hatred. What you call bonds can easily become shackles." Suddenly, a voice echoed through the battlefield, a commanding tone that drew everyone's attention. "Enough, Itachi. You've lost your way." The voice belonged to Kakashi, who had joined the fray, standing resolute against the tide of rogue ninjas. "You've forgotten what it means to fight for the right cause." "It's too late for that, Kakashi," Itachi replied, a hint of regret in his voice. "I serve a greater purpose now." Just then, as the battle intensified, the allied forces from Tsunade arrived on the scene, led by Gaara and his team. "Kanata. We're here to help," Gaara shouted, his presence a beacon of strength. Naruto's heart swelled with hope as he saw his allies joining the fight. "Let's push them back together," he shouted, rallying the shinobi of Kanata. With the combined forces of Konoha and Tsunade, the tide began to turn against the rogue ninjas. Gaara unleashed a torrent of sand, sweeping through the enemy ranks and creating openings for Naruto and Sasuke to press forward. "Stay focused," Sasuke called out, his Sharingan spinning as he spotted rogue ninjas attempting to flank them. "We can let them regroup." As the battle unfolded, Naruto found himself face to face with Itachi once more. The atmosphere crackled with tension, both of them poised for conflict. "You've become quite strong," Itachi admitted, his expression unreadable. "But strength alone won't save you. You must understand the intricacies of sacrifice." "I've learned enough about sacrifice," Naruto replied fiercely. I know what it means to fight for my friends. I won't let you take that away from us." Without another word, Itachi launched a flurry of shuriken, aiming to test Naruto's reflexes. "Let's see how far you've come." Naruto summoned his shadow clones, the shadows intertwining with the shuriken and deflecting them. "You'll have to do better than that," he shouted, charging forward. The two began to clash, shadows dancing around him as Naruto employed the powers of the 10 shadows, while Itachi unleashed his own formidable skills, the battle turning into a breathtaking display of technique and agility. As they fought, Naruto tapped into the depth of the 10 shadows, feeling their energy surge through him. With every strike and block, he grew more attuned to the shadow's true potential. "You're evolving," Itachi noted, his voice a mix of admiration and caution. "But evolution requires more than raw power." "Then show me," Naruto shouted, pushing his limits as he summoned multiple shadow beasts, their forms merging into a massive figure that towered over Itachi. "This is the true power of the 10 shadows," Naruto declared, unleashing the enormous beast toward Itachi. Itachi's eyes widened for a fraction of a second before he gathered his chakra. "You think mere strength will defeat me? I will show you the true nature of an Uchiha." The massive shadow beast charged, and Itachi countered with a powerful jutsu, summoning flames that danced around him like a protective barrier. The two powers clashed in a magnificent explosion, sending shockwaves throughout the battlefield. Naruto was thrown back, but he quickly regained his footing, determination blazing in his eyes. "I won't give up," he shouted, focusing on the shadows once more. Itachi emerged from the smoke, unscathed but with a glimmer of surprise in his gaze. "You've grown strong, but your strength must come with purpose." "Purpose?" Naruto retorted, his voice steady. "My purpose is to protect my friends and this village. I won't let you turn our bonds into shackles." As the battle raged on, Naruto's friends rallied around him, creating a united front against the rogue ninjas and Itachi. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and the air crackled with energy. With each passing moment, Naruto's determination only grew stronger. The bond he shared with his friends fueled his resolve as they fought side by side, each one embodying the spirit of Konoha. "Together," Naruto shouted, channeling his energy into the shadows. "Let's finish this." With the combined power of the 10 shadows and the support of his friends, Naruto unleashed a massive wave of shadow energy, crashing into the rogue ninjas and dispersing them like dust in the wind. The tide had turned, and it felt like the very essence of Konoha surged through them. Victory was within reach. As the last remnants of the rogue forces were driven back, Naruto felt a mixture of relief and exhaustion wash over him. The battlefield was littered with remnants of their conflict, but their spirit remained unbroken. Itachi stood alone, watching the aftermath with a complex expression. "You've proven yourself, Naruto. Perhaps there's more to this world than I once believed." Naruto approached cautiously, shadows still flickering around him. "You can still change, Itachi. It doesn't have to be this way." "Maybe," Itachi said, his voice softening. "But the path I've chosen is fraught with consequences." Sasuke joined Naruto, standing side by side. "You can choose a different path, brother. You're not alone." As the sun began to rise over Konoha, illuminating the village in golden light, Naruto felt a renewed sense of hope. They had faced darkness together, and the bonds they shared were stronger than ever. Kakashi approached, a relieved smile on his face. "You did well, Naruto. I knew you could handle it." Naruto grinned, glancing at his friends. "We did it together. That's what matters." With the shadow of the puppeteer looming over them, the battle was only the beginning. They had faced one threat, but many more lay ahead. Naruto knew that as long as they stood together, they could overcome anything. With the rogue ninjas defeated and the morning sun casting a warm glow over Konoha, Naruto and his friends took a moment to catch their breath. The atmosphere was still charged with tension, and while victory had been achieved, the shadow of the puppeteer loomed larger than ever. "Is it really over?" Sakura asked, wiping the sweat from her brow as she looked at the battered battlefield. "We fought hard, But we don't know what else is coming. We can't let our guard down, Kakashi replied, standing beside her with a serious expression. The puppeteer may still have plans in motion. Naruto nodded, his determination unwavering. We need to figure out what he's planning next. If we can get ahead of him, we can protect the village. Sasuke, ever observant, added, the information we gathered from the camp mentioned a larger force. They were waiting for the right moment to attack. We need to find out what that means. Back in the Hokage's office, the village leaders convened to discuss their next course of action. The atmosphere was heavy with concern, and Naruto felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Kakashi opened the meeting. While we've managed to repel the immediate threat, we need to strategize for the future. Naruto, Sasuke, and the rest of you who engaged directly with the rogue forces, what did you learn? Naruto leaned forward, recounting the information they gathered at the rogue camp. They mentioned waiting for a larger force and hinted at a master plan orchestrated by the puppeteer. We need to find out more about who he is and what his goals are. Hinata, your Gyakuten could help us scout potential locations for enemy gatherings, Kakashi suggested. I'll do it, Hinata replied confidently. I can cover a wide area and check for any suspicious activity. Good, Kakashi nodded. In the meantime, let's strengthen our defenses and prepare for the worst. As the meeting concluded, Naruto felt a sense of urgency. I want to help with the scouting, he declared. If the puppeteer is planning something, we need to move quickly. Agreed, Sasuke chimed in. Let's split into teams. While Hinata scouts, we can gather more intel from the surrounding villages. They might have seen something unusual. Let's meet back here by sundown, Sakura suggested. That way, we can compare notes and form a plan based on what we find. With their strategy set, the teams quickly dispersed. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura headed towards the nearest village, determined to uncover any leads about the puppeteer's movements. Upon arriving at the nearby village, they began gathering information from the locals. However, as they questioned villagers about recent strange occurrences, they sensed an unease in the air. Whispers followed them, and people hurriedly turned away, avoiding eye contact. What's going on here? Naruto asked, growing increasingly frustrated. Have you seen any rogue ninjas or strange activity? One villager finally spoke up, his voice trembling. We've seen shadowy figures in the woods at night. They are searching for something, or someone. Searching for what? Sakura pressed, her concern evident. The puppeteer's influence has spread, the villager replied. People fear what they don't understand. They say he can control shadows and use them to manipulate minds. Naruto's heart sank. This isn't just about power, it's about control. As the trio continued to probe for more information, a sudden commotion erupted in a village square. Shouts filled the air, and villagers scrambled in all directions. Run! It's them, someone yelled, and panic surged through the crowd. Stay close! Naruto shouted, grabbing Sasuke and Sakura's hands as they navigated through the chaos. As they emerged into the square, they were met with a horrific sight. A group of rogue ninjas had invaded the village, led by a figure draped in shadows, their features obscured. Stop them! Naruto shouted, his heart racing. We can't let them terrorize this village. The rogue ninjas advanced, ready to strike. The trio prepared for battle, their hearts resolute. Naruto summoned his shadow clones, ready to engage. Shadow clone jutsu, he shouted, creating a multitude of copies that surged toward the enemy. Sasuke activated his Sharingan, swiftly assessing the situation. We need to divide their attention, he strategized, darting towards a group of rogue ninjas. Sakura, fueled by adrenaline, joined Naruto in the front lines, delivering powerful punches that incapacitated enemies. We need to protect the villagers, she shouted. The rogue ninjas retaliated, launching shuriken and jutsu, but Naruto's clones formed a wall, absorbing the attacks. We're not backing down, he yelled, the resolve in his voice echoing through the square. As the battle raged, the cloaked figure stepped forward, revealing a glimmering mask that obscured their face. Fools! You think you can stop the inevitable? Naruto felt a chill run down his spine. Who are you? He demanded, standing tall against the ominous figure. I am but a servant of the puppeteer, the figure declared, their voice dripping with malice. And I am here to remind you of the futility of your resistance. Sasuke's expression hardened. We'll show you the strength of our bonds. You underestimate us. The masked figure chuckled darkly. Bonds? Your bonds are nothing more than strings waiting to be pulled. You will see. As the figure spoke, shadows began to gather around them, swirling ominously. Naruto sensed the tension in the air as if the shadows themselves were alive, ready to consume everything in their path. Stay alert, Naruto warned, feeling the shadows coiling around the rogue ninjas. They are trying to use the darkness against us. The figure raised a hand, and the shadows surged forward, creating a wall of dark energy. You cannot escape the puppeteer's grasp. Surrender, and perhaps you will be spared. No way! Naruto shouted, rallying his clones. We fight back. Just then, Hinata's voice broke through the chaos, her Byakugan activated. Naruto. Sasuke. Sakura. I've found their source of power, she cried, rushing to their side. It's coming from that figure. Then let's take them down. Sasuke shouted, charging forward with determination. As the battle intensified, Naruto felt the energy of the tense shadows swirling within him. Time to show you the true strength of Kanata, he declared, channeling his power into a massive shadow beast. The rogue ninjas hesitated, fear creeping into their eyes as they faced the overwhelming force of Naruto's shadows. We won't be stopped. Naruto shouted, unleashing the shadow beast towards the masked figure. The figure raised their arms, summoning a wave of dark energy to counter Naruto's attack. Foolish boy. You don't understand the depth of my power. With a deafening clash, Naruto's beast collided with the dark energy, creating a shockwave that shook the village. Villagers watched in awe and terror as the two forces collided. Amidst the chaos, Sasuke and Sakura worked to fend off the rogue ninjas, keeping them at bay while Naruto faced a cloaked figure. The shadows swirled violently, their power threatening to overwhelm him. You're strong, but your strength is meaningless without understanding, the masked figure taunted, their voice cold and mocking. I understand enough. Naruto shouted back, the resolve in his heart fueling his energy. I fight for my friends, for my village. I won't let you win. With one final push, Naruto summoned all his strength, channeling the combined power of the 10 shadows. 10 shadows, unleash your might. The shadows surged forward, overwhelming the dark energy and crashing into the masked figure with an explosive force. The impact sent shockwaves through the square, and for a brief moment, the cloaked figure faltered, revealing a glimpse of the person beneath the mask, a face distorted by rage and hatred. No. This cannot be, the figure screamed as Naruto's shadows overwhelmed them, shattering the illusion of invincibility. With a final surge of power, the shadows enveloped the rogue ninjas, causing them to retreat in fear. The masked figure stumbled back, their presence wavering as the shadows consumed them. As the dust settled, the village square lay in ruins, but the threat had been pushed back. The villagers slowly emerged from their hiding places, relief washing over their faces. We did it! Naruto exclaimed, panting but exhilarated. We held them off. Sasuke nodded, his expression still serious. But this isn't over. The puppeteer will come again, and we need to be ready. He made a step forward, her Byakugan fading. I could sense their fear, but I also sensed a deeper connection. The puppeteer is using their fears against them. Sakura sighed, glancing at the chaos around them. We need to unite the villages against this threat. We can't let fear divide us. As they regrouped, Naruto felt the weight of responsibility once more. We need to gather our allies and inform them of what happened here. If we stand together, we can face the puppeteer's dark intentions. Kakashi arrived on the scene, assessing the aftermath. You all did well, but we need to be proactive. I'll gather the leaders and prepare a meeting. This time, we'll plan together. Let's show the puppeteer that we won't be his puppets, Naruto declared, his voice filled with determination. We'll fight for our bonds, our villages, and our future. The sun began to set over Kanata, casting an orange glow over the village as Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura, and their friends prepared for the meeting with the village leaders. The battle had left its mark, but the sense of urgency filled the air as they realized the gravity of the situation. We need to move quickly, Kakashi said, gathering the team in the Hokage's office. The longer we wait, the more time the puppeteer has to enact his plans. We need to unify the villages under a common cause. Naruto nodded, his eyes burning with determination. Let's get everyone together and share what we know. The more information we have, the better prepared we'll be. Sakura chimed in. We should also discuss our experiences with the shadows. The puppeteer's influence seems to work through fear, and we need to address that. As word spread through the villages, ninjas from all quarters of the Land of Fire began to arrive in Kanata. Allies like Gaara, the Kazekage, and his team joined them, bringing with them not just manpower but vital intelligence about the puppeteer's operations in the Sand Village. We've seen his influence extend beyond your borders, Gaara reported, his demeanor serious. He's instilling fear and chaos among the citizens, turning them against each other. We need to show them that we are stronger together, Naruto urged, his resolve palpable. If we can instill hope, we can break the puppeteer's hold over them. Temari nodded in agreement. We should hold a summit. Bring together the leaders and strategize how to counter this threat. In the grand meeting hall of Kanata, leaders from various villages gathered. The air was thick with tension as everyone took their seats. Naruto stood at the front, flanked by Sasuke, Sakura, and Kakashi, feeling the weight of responsibility heavier than ever. Thank you all for coming, Naruto began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. We're here today because we face a common enemy, the puppeteer. He's using fear to control and manipulate, and if we don't act now, we risk losing everything. The room fell silent as leaders exchanged glances, weighing the gravity of his words. Is this true? One of the elders from the grass village spoke up. We've heard rumors, but we've thought them exaggerated. It's all too real, Sakura interjected, recounting the recent battle and the strange powers they had encountered. He's not just attacking villages, he's sowing discord among us. As discussions continued, old rivalries began to surface. An elder from the water village spoke up, his tone skeptical. Why should we trust Kanata? Your village has caused problems in the past. Sasuke stepped forward, his eyes sharp. This isn't about past grievances. This is about survival. The puppeteer doesn't discriminate. If we let him tear us apart, we'll all fall. A murmur of agreement rippled through the room, and Gaara added, we've faced our own challenges. If we stand divided, we'll be easy targets. We need to put aside our differences for the greater good. Naruto could see the tension easing, slowly shifting towards a sense of camaraderie. We're stronger together, he reiterated. We need to unite our forces and share information. That's the only way we can hope to defeat him. As the discussions continued, a plan began to form. The leaders agreed to establish a network of communication between the villages, ensuring that information about rogue ninja movements could be shared in real time. He made as Bikudan would play a key role in scouting for threats, while Sakura and Tsunade would lead medical teams ready to assist in case of injuries during the coming conflicts. Let's also train together, Naruto suggested. If we combine our jutsu, we might discover new techniques that can counter the puppeteer's shadows. As ideas flowed, a sense of unity began to fill the room. They were no longer just representatives of their villages, they were allies fighting against a common enemy. As night fell, Naruto found himself standing on the balcony of the Hokage Tower, gazing at the stars. The weight of the world seemed heavy on his shoulders, but he felt a flicker of hope igniting within him. Hey, Sasuke said, joining him. You okay? Yeah, just thinking, Naruto replied, leaning against the railing. We've got a lot of work ahead of us. I just hope we can really make a difference. Sasuke nodded, looking out at the village. We will. You've always had a way of bringing people together. Just remember, it's not just about strength. It's about belief. I know, Naruto said, a smile creeping onto his face. And I believe we can do this together. The next day, training began in earnest. Teens from various villages practiced their techniques together, sharing knowledge and forming new bonds. Naruto felt invigorated by the energy around him. This was the spirit of cooperation he had always dreamed of. As they trained, the shadow of the puppeteer remained a constant reminder of the danger they faced. The tension was palpable, and rumors of his next move echoed in hushed whispers. Be on guard. Kakashi called out during one training session. If we let our guard down, we'll be vulnerable. Keep your senses sharp. As the days passed, the group began to feel an undeniable bond forming. They were no longer just ninjas from different villages, they were comrades, united against a common threat. In the midst of their preparations, a courier arrived with an urgent message from the Lightning Village. As the leaders gathered to read it, concern washed over them. The puppeteer has set a challenge, the courier announced, holding up the scroll. He demands a showdown at the ruins of Amedakure. If we refuse, he threatens to unleash chaos upon our villages. Naruto's heart raced at the thought. We can't let him dictate our actions. But if we go, we risk playing into his hands. He's trying to instill fear, Gaara pointed out. But we can use this opportunity to confront him directly. If we show our strength, it might dissuade him from attacking innocent villagers. Agreed, Kakashi said, his expression thoughtful. But we must approach this with caution. This could be a trap. After much deliberation, the leaders reached a consensus. They would accept the puppeteer's challenge, but they would not go alone. A united force of shinobi would confront him at Amedakure, ready for whatever trap he had laid. We'll prepare our strongest teams, Naruto declared, the fire of determination igniting in his chest. We'll show him that the bonds we share are stronger than his shadows. As the meeting adjourned, Naruto felt a renewed sense of purpose. They were not just fighting for their villages, they were fighting for each other. As night fell, the combined forces of Konoha, Tsunade, and other allied villages made their way toward the ruins of Amedakure. The air was thick with anticipation, and the shadows of the ancient structures loomed ominously in the distance. Stay sharp, Sasuke said, his voice low as they approached the ruins. We don't know what to expect. Naruto nodded, his heart pounding. No matter what happens, we stick together. As they reached the heart of the ruins, a chilling laugh echoed through the air, causing a shiver to run down Naruto's spine. The puppeteer emerged from the shadows, his face concealed behind a mask, the shadows dancing around him like an extension of his very being. Well, he mocked, surveying the gathered ninjas. So many heroes gathered to face their doom. How delightful. Enough games. Naruto shouted, stepping forward. We're here to end this once and for all. The puppeteer chuckled darkly. And this? Oh, my dear boy, this is just the beginning. Welcome to my stage. The atmosphere grew thick with tension as the puppeteer stood before Naruto and the assembled ninjas. The shadows at his feet writhed like serpents, twisting and coiling in anticipation. Naruto felt a surge of determination coursing through him. This was their moment to reclaim control. Your theatrics don't scare us. Naruto shouted, stepping forward defiantly. We've come to put an end to your reign of terror. The puppeteer tilted his head, amusement glimmering in his eyes. You truly believe that you can defeat me? You're merely pawns in a game far greater than yourselves. As the other shinobi took their positions, Naruto sensed the shifting shadows around him, ready to spring into action. We are not your pawns. We are here to fight for our bonds and our villages. Kakashi took command of the assembled ninjas, ensuring that everyone was aware of their roles. Listen up. We need to stay united. Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura lead the charge. The rest of us will support you from the flanks. Keep an eye on those shadows, they might be trickier than they appear. The allied forces nodded in agreement, forming his solid line ready to face the oncoming darkness. The puppeteer raised a hand, and the shadows surrounding him surged forward, launching a series of shadowy tendrils at the group. Get ready. Naruto shouted, summoning his shadow clones to counter the attack. Shadow clone jutsu. In an instant, dozens of Naruto clones appeared, forming a protective barrier against the encroaching tendrils. Let's go, guys. We'll show him what teamwork looks like. As the clones surged forward, engaging the shadow tendrils, Sasuke activated his Sharingan, scanning the battlefield for any signs of the puppeteer's true form. Watch for his movements. If we can isolate him, we might have a chance. Sakura focused her chakra, preparing to support her friends with medical ninjutsu. I'll be ready to heal anyone who gets injured. Just stay safe. The puppeteer observed with a wicked smile. Foolish children. You don't realize that the more you fight, the more you play into my hands. Shadows are not just my weapons, they are my eyes and ears. As the shadows continued to swirl around him, Naruto felt the weight of his resolve. I won't let you control us. We fight back with everything we have. Drawing upon the power of the 10 shadows within him, Naruto felt the familiar energy coursing through his veins. 10 shadows, I summon you, he cried, channeling their strength into a massive shadow beast that roared to life beside him. The puppeteer's eyes widened momentarily in surprise. Impressive, but futile. With a flick of his wrist, he commanded the shadows to launch a series of devastating attacks towards the allied forces. The darkness surged forward, threatening to overwhelm them. Protect the village. Naruto shouted, pushing forward with his shadow beast. We won't let you take anyone else. The clash of shadows and jutsu echoed through the ruins, a chaotic symphony of power and fear. Sasuke flanked Naruto, using his Sharingan to anticipate the puppeteer's next moves. Stay close, Naruto. We can't let him isolate any of us. The puppeteer, aware of their strategy, began to manipulate the shadows to create illusions of various shinobi. Your friends will betray you. Trust is a weakness. Don't listen to him. Sakura called out, using her strength to break apart one of the shadow illusions. He's trying to mess with your head. Just keep your focus. Sasuke shouted, slashing through the shadowy clones with his Chidori, dispelling the illusions around him. Naruto clenched his fists, the bond with his friends strengthening his resolve. We know who we are. We fight for each other. We won't let you divide us. However, as the battle raged on, the puppeteer began to reveal his true power. The shadows coiled around him like a living cloak, and he seemed to draw strength from the chaos he created. Foolish children. You think you can fight against the darkness? He boomed, a sinister laugh escaping his lips. With every blow you strike, you all empower me? Suddenly, the shadows surged and enveloped the allied forces, creating a disorienting fog that clouded their vision. Naruto struggled to see through the darkness, feeling his connection to his friends waver. Stay together, he shouted, fighting against the encroaching shadows. We can't let them isolate us. But the shadows twisted and contorted, playing on their fears. Illusions of their past failures surfaced, causing doubt to seep into their hearts. Faces of lost friends and moments of regret flickered in the darkness. In the midst of the chaos, Naruto felt a familiar pang of loneliness. He remembered his struggles, the moments when he had felt abandoned and alone. Am I really strong enough? He thought, his heart heavy with doubt. Sasuke's voice cut through the fog. Naruto. Focus. Remember why you are fighting. I'm fighting for my friends. Naruto shouted, clenching his fists. I won't give in to fear. Sakura's voice echoed in the shadows, reminding him of their bond. You're not alone, Naruto. We believe in you. Suddenly, Naruto felt the warmth of their presence surround him, pushing back the darkness. "We're in this together," he cried, a surge of energy flooding through him as he summoned the full strength of the 10 shadows. As the shadows recoiled, the light of Naruto's resolve illuminated the ruins. 10 shadows, unleash your fury, he commanded, unleashing a wave of energy that dispelled the illusions and dark tendrils. The puppeteer stumbled back, surprise etched on his face. "What is this power?" he yelled, his voice filled with disbelief. "We are not your puppets," Naruto declared, his confidence renewed. "We're shinobi of the leaf, and we fight for our bonds." With a fierce roar, Naruto's shadow beast lunged forward, breaking through the remaining shadows and striking at the puppeteer. The battlefield erupted into chaos as both sides unleashed their full powers. Sasuke and Sakura fought alongside Naruto, their unity shining through the darkness. Kakashi rallied the other shinobi, shouting commands, and inspiring them to push back against the shadows. "We can't let him take control. Fight for your village, for your friends." The allied forces surged forward, reclaiming their ground. The puppeteer, realizing he was losing control, began to unleash his full wrath, the shadows around him swirling violently. But Naruto, fueled by the strength of his friends, refused to back down. "This ends now," he shouted, directing the full force of the 10 shadows towards the puppeteer. The collision was monumental, and the resulting shockwave shattered the remnants of the battlefield, light breaking through the darkness as Naruto's shadows overpowered the puppeteer's influence. As the dust settled, the puppeteer fell to his knees, his shadows dissipating into the ether. "No, this isn't possible," he gasped, fear and disbelief painted across his features. "We won't be controlled by fear," Naruto shouted, standing tall amidst the wreckage. "We are stronger than you'd think." With a final burst of energy, Naruto directed the shadows to envelop the puppeteer, binding him in place. The darkness receded, and the allied forces stood together, victorious. As the village leaders surveyed the battlefield, a sense of relief washed over them. They had faced the darkness together and emerged stronger. Kakashi approached Naruto, pride shining in his eyes. "You did well, Naruto. Your leadership brought us together when it mattered most." Naruto smiled, looking at his friends. "We did this together. Without everyone here, we wouldn't have won." As the sun began to rise, casting light on the ruins of Megakure, the allied forces knew that their unity had forged a powerful bond. They had overcome the darkness together, but they also knew that challenges lay ahead.